including Tony Holman, who was cheering as loudly as the crowd. We've seen what has never been seen before, beginning with a woman driving in the field in the morning, and A.J. finishing 4 up front at Indianapolis. Headed into victory lane now, A.J. Foyt in the gleaming Gilmore 14 Coyote, the Gilmore Racing Team home, and he wins again.
And there's the check flag for Mark Donahue, winner of the 1972 Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Oh my goodness, we have 7, 8, 10 cars in a pack headed for one Jerry.
Well, you talk about the crowd getting on their feet. They do. So far, so good. They are nose to tail, a little bit of room. There's about an 8-car pack in front of Gary Lee right now.
Yeah, and in that pack, second place and third place. Little Al has gotten around Jack Villeneuve. He's back up to second, and now 2 cars separate second and third. Mr. Excitement is that youngster, that second-generation driver. We're impressed with Jack Villeneuve, but right now he's dropped to third. And there's Alan Jr., and then Bobby Ray Hall. Jack Villeneuve goes on the outside. He goes on. You can't go too wide in the turns. They're doing it today.
They sure are coming through 4. Now they go single file. Maybe they got a little scared last time. Who knows? But going through 4 this time, everybody single. They come toward the main straightaway. Bob Jenkins.
That was just a breathtaking moment.
This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now, perfectly aligned, back on the main straightaway to call the start of the greatest spectacle in racing, the voice of the 500, Paul Page.
Oh, they came off of turn 4 beautifully. They looked for the green flag. The green flag is out. And from the center of the road, James Hinchcliffe pulls away. Howard tried to duck over behind him, but Hinchcliffe is in front.
They must have found something with that car because he was not happy with the balance, not happy with the amount of horsepower he could have during that first run. Marco slides that bright yellow and blue Snapple car into pit lane. The fueler will engage the hose and the 4 tire changers will go to work. Marco has charged to the front. His grandfather won in 1969. A good pit stop for Andretti as he exits pit lane.
Other
Ray swung past on the inside of Ed Carpenter. Marco Andretti in third, then Scott Dixon, Elio Castroneves. That's the front five in the turn number 3, Mark James.
Not sure on restart that up front is the place to be because of what happens with a slipstream, if you will. Ed Carpenter right there, Marco Andretti, then Scott Dixon, then Elio Castroneves. Front five set sail for the north end. Hunter Ray trying to draft Carpenter going into one.
And Carpenter on the outside. Ryan Hunter Ray on the inside. Hunter Ray will make the pass again. And Marco Andretti stays in the number 3 spot. He may want number 2.
Guys, Will Power, Ed Carpenter, Marco Andretti. Power beats him out of pit lane. So it's Power, Marco Andretti, Ed Carpenter, followed by J.R. Hildebrand.
And Hunter Ray darts in, moves to the outside as they get the white flag. 1 to go, Jerry.
They are side by side. Elio looks to the outside. Elio will have to take the number 2 spot. He's right on the rear wing of Brian Hunter Ray.
Hunter Ray looking for number 1. Elio Castroneves looking for win number 4. Ryan Hunter Ray, 8 car lengths in front as they move in the backstretch for the final time.
And Elio make the move. 3 laps too early. Does he have anything at all left in the tank? A couple of turns to go. Ryan Hunter Ray leads in Indy. Turn number 800 is upon him. Less than a car length is the difference. The final turn. Hunter Ray to call the finish. The voice of the 500, Paul Page.
And it is Ryan Hunter Ray that is going to lead Elio Castroneves across the line. Ryan Hunter Ray has his first Indianapolis 500-mile race win. Elio Castroneves will have to wait for another year to get his 4th victory at the Indy 500.
This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
John Andretti starts to close into the back of Mansell. Mansell. So John Andretti, who will drive 2 races in one day, is having one incredible drive here this morning. John Andretti strong, trying to run down the line. Nigel Mansell, a very quiet month. And look here, they almost go 3 wide. Now they get down into single file. And Robbie Gordon now running strong. He had some handling problems early, but Robbie moving up through the field.
As they head through 4, the big battle right now, Boycell clears traffic and gets through very safely. And everyone, again, making it through 4 as they head toward Juan and Jerry Baker.
Well, Mansell's found some running room all by his lonesome. Now we were watching Eddie Cheever. Man, he appears to be really flying out there. Oh, we got a bad crash in 1. 2 cars are gathered in. We've got a quick flash fire. It is out. Cars dive to the inside. One of the cars up against the outside wall dodges the crash. They are side by side just as we come out of number 1.
Less than half a lap ago. Brody Johncock went 5 car lengths over Rick Mears. They're in the north short chute. Here they come. This is the final quarter lap. Johncock maintains the lead. The voice of the 500, Paul Page. Who's going to win it?
Gordon Johncock off the 4th turn. Mears is right behind him. Johncock. Mears makes a try. Johncock wins it by less than 1/10 of a second. Gordon Johncock has won his second 500. Rick Mears comes across in second place, almost side by side. And you should see the celebration that is taking place at the Patrick Racing pits. An incredible celebration now as they run down toward victory lane. What a finish.
Let's see what happens with the 68.
I think he's going to climb the fence.
He is out of the car, and Helio Castroneves climbs the fence in the front straight.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
The lead is down to 2.5 car lengths. Helio Castroneves looking for 2 in a row. Paul Tracy has him in his sights.
All the qualifying struggles for Team Green, but boy, Paul Tracy looking good right now. And Greg's back in 2 as Tracy tries to make the pass to the north. Then he heads toward Preston Airy. Action is on the speedway.
And Paul Tracy has made the pass. He's gotten around Castroneves. Mikey, heads your way.
Paul Tracy will take the yellow flag. It looks like he will win the Indianapolis 500 as the yellow and white
Yes, we can see him now, and he's right down to that white line on this lap, too, as he streaks through here, right up onto the back stretch, and in just a second or so, Bernie Herman should be able to see.
Okay, Howard, here comes Cornelli now, the Torrance man from California. White helmet, blue visor, and I'm sure he's going to be a very, very happy guy. And down to you, Mikey Hurt.
Okay, Bernie, we've got it. Here comes Cornelli. Shows he's fast as he gets around me here by Roger McCluskey. McCluskey spins there in the corner. Hold it. We've got one car going around, and he's sideways. The same spot that Eddie Sachs was. McCluskey right there. He's okay. He's sitting in his car. The cars are coming around him. We'll follow. See if it's all right. They're all going on the inside. McCluskey halfway through the turn, sideways, the exact same spot where Eddie Sachs was just a few minutes ago. Now they're running under the yellow flag. Jones went around us a moment ago. McCluskey passed him on the...
And there's the checkered flag for Parnelli Jones, the winner of the 1963 500-mile race.
As they come onto the main stretch, it's Mario Andretti being chased by Danny Sullivan. Sullivan darts out, pulls alongside Mario Andretti. It's a drag race down the main stretch. Can Sullivan pull Andretti into the first turn, Ron Carroll?
It is Danny Sullivan gets him. Danny Sullivan gets him down. No, he's whirling. No, he's spinning. Danny Sullivan spins, but he goes around twice and gathers in.
Absolutely incredible. Danny Sullivan spun in front of Mario Andretti, gathered the car back up and continues on, and Sullivan only fell back to second place. Larry Henry, they're coming to you.
Well, this is reminiscent of Roberto Guerrero a year ago with Roberto Guerrero's spun and kept going. Here comes Mario Andretti now. Here's Danny Sullivan after that spin. He'll have to change tires, but what a job of driving by the man from Louisville, Kentucky, Danny Sullivan.
Absolutely unbelievable. Danny Sullivan got past Andretti in the short chute and then lost control of it. And he spun the car completely, but he caught it, regained control, and continued on.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. The Verizon IndyCar Series on IndyCar Radio.
And history is matched as the twin checkered flags come out for our second four-time winner of the Indianapolis 500, Al Unser. Roberto Guerrero comes across the line, finishing 4.4 seconds he scores another victory. Al Unser has won the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
A.J. Foyt now coming down to the white line. In turn number 2, he looks kind of happy as he goes through 2 onto the backstretch, and in just a second he'll be up to Chuck Marlowe on his final lap.
Roger, howdy, and he has the backstretch all to himself. Here he comes, A.J. Foyt, number 1, entering up toward that northeast turn. A big wave to all the fans. He's in the northeast, and Mikey Hurst.
We got him here. People waving their hands, waving to him, and he waves back as he takes the turn number 3. One more turn to go to Jim Shelton.
And he's in this turn right now. White car, big gold number 1, a happy A.J. There you have what looks like our winner, and I don't think he can miss now. He has about half a straightaway to go, and here's Sid Collins.
Well, nothing should happen now, and here comes the car, the Sheraton Thompson Special, the checkered flag for A.J. Foyt, with the right hand up in the air, waving to the crowd, the winner of the 1964 500-mile race.
And there the checkered flag waving, and Maury Rose is the winner. Rose is the winner of the 31st running of the Indianapolis 500-mile Motor Speedway Classic.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
All right, you mind it.
Welcome to Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, on what is kind of a dreary day, a bit overcast. It has been sprinkling rain early in the morning. Heavy rain came through this area last night, but nevertheless, we are going with the Verizon IndyCar Series for their very first practice. Everything is kind of mixed into one day as the green flag comes out and the very first practice session is underway. We'll have this practice session, and then again at 12:30 the IndyCars will practice. And then IndyCar qualifying comes up this afternoon. That is at 4:50 Eastern Time. Joining me in the booth is Dave First from RTV6 Indianapolis, who is with us quite often. Good to have you on board today.
What happened to the sunshine?
I don't know. Did you bring it?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
I got it coming tomorrow. How about that, Paul?
Well, that is, in fact, the good news,
Yeah.
isn't it? That tomorrow's supposed to be a great day, so we can take a little rain today.
Well, we all remember what happened a year ago here.
No, we try
for
not
the race.
to.
And sadly, we do remember that gully washer that came through and postponed things. We got it underway, and finally Ryan Hunter-Reay picked up his second straight win here in Barber. And certainly he's the guy to beat. 2 straight wins. And, oh, yeah, there's that thing about the Indy 500, which comes up next month. He's also the reigning
That was
Indy
a nice
500
little touch
champion,
for his
too.
career,
Exactly.
wasn't it? So Ryan Hunter-Reay, without question, is one of the guys we definitely want to watch. No wins yet this year, but his team is obviously extraordinarily capable. Everybody that I've seen roll out looks like they have all rolled out on wets, though the track is on its way to drying, but I think it's one of those situations where it is so damp out there owing to last night and the heavy rains here that everybody decided it might be wise to go out on their wet tires. Nick?
And from what I saw, Paul, from some of the camera shots around this place, I don't see a lot of standing water. So, yeah, as the track is wet right now, I think it is going to dry. Certainly by the end of this session, this hour-long session, I think we're going to see a lot of drivers come in and put on the slicks. As for those conditions right now, as you mentioned, no sunshine right now. Overcast, low-hanging, darker clouds. Thankfully, no precipitation right now. And we don't expect to see much precipitation for the next few hours. There's a chance maybe later this afternoon of some pop-up storms, but certainly we are keeping our fingers crossed. Right now, that ambient temperature is 64 degrees. The track temperature up around 74 degrees. And, Jake, it's 64, but I'll tell you what, with that humidity level, it feels a lot warmer than that here in Birmingham this morning.
Yeah, the feeling is pretty comfortable. The air definitely a little bit thicker, no question about it. You were talking about tires and what everybody is doing right now. I think what we're seeing is probably going to be par for the course, and that is people go out and do their install laps, just get refamiliarized with the track, look over all of the electronics and data on the car, bring it back in. They're doing that on the wets, but just as I say that, for example, Simon Pagenaud goes out on the wet tires, but then once they come in, as is the case with Scott Dixon, also the case with Elio Castroneves, they come back in, they are putting on those slick tires, the dry tires, the sticker set, a brand new version of them, and now waiting just necessarily for the track to dry up completely and then head back out, or at least to the point where they can go out on the slick tires. So Castroneves has put those tires on, so too has Scott Dixon, and I would think that they'll wait just a little bit here before they go out. But the install laps, Paul, indeed being done on those wet tires.
Yeah, and Jake, as they come back in, for example, Ryan Hunter-Reay, the defending champion here, just pulled back into the pits, and they have slicks laid out for him. So too for Joseph Newgarden. They are right down below our observation point, which is just maybe 20 feet downstream from the start-finish line and the starter's stand. But for the most part, it's fairly quiet out there as everybody comes around, does the installation lap, and then comes in to talk about it.
I had a chance to go up and down the paddock area yesterday, Paul, talked to some of the crew guys, the truck drivers, the bus drivers. Say, hey, how you guys holding up? They all kind of looked at me like, oh, it's been a long, grueling. I mean, here they are. Go back a couple of weeks. They're all in New Orleans. For the race there, the rainy conditions we all saw there, right. And then you make it all the way out to Long Beach, and then these guys, truck drivers, bus drivers, are all heading back here. It's been a long little session, and it's going to continue, obviously, through the month of May and into June as well, but that's why they make the big bucks, Paul.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's the start, really, of a very long run, because they actually have a test next weekend.
A week from tomorrow, actually,
right.
At the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
And then we go into the Grand Prix of Indianapolis, then into qualifying for the Indianapolis 500, then the Indianapolis 500 itself, then on to Texas, and on and on. It's really pretty brutal for the teams. And most of them are based in Indianapolis, Indiana, and a number of them, after Long Beach, ran through Indianapolis, picked some stuff up, and then come down here to Alabama.
Well, obviously, they all look forward to the month of May and everything in Indianapolis. But I tell you, you talk to all the drivers, they all love coming to this facility here at Barber Motorsports Park just outside Birmingham. It's 2.3 miles, 17-turn layout, a natural terrain road course. You can liken it to, the Augusta National of racetracks. It's beautiful out here.
Absolutely. Nick, no drizzle, right? Tell me that.
Yeah, no drizzle right now. Very dry down here on pit lane. The pit lane drying out, I should say, but thankfully none of that precipitation coming from the sky. As you guys mentioned, those teams, a lot of them did swing by Indianapolis to pick up a few things. A few of these teams also picked up some new drivers. Sage Karam is back in that number 8 car for Chip Ganassi Racing. Of course, Sebastian Saavedra was in that car a week ago and gave it a really good run with a top 10 run at Long Beach. And then another change at Dale Coyne Racing. Hard to believe, a 4th driver in 3 races. Certainly Carlos Huertas was in that car most of last year. Rocky Moran did a couple practice sessions before breaking his thumb. Connor Daly got the run at Long Beach a week ago. And then, of course, Rodolfo Gonzalez is in the number 18 car this weekend. So a couple different driver changes this weekend as the series shifts to round 4 here in Barber.
Now, Sage Karam, when you talk about him, remember that this was where he had his problem in a test, where he actually got his thumb broken, and that's not uncommon if you keep your hands on the steering wheel when you see a wall coming up in front
I was here for that test. It was a month ago at Barber Motorsports Park as he was coming over that hill in turn 13, going through 14, bottomed out, lost control of the car and hit the wall between turns 14 and 15 and did some damage, as you mentioned, to that hand, and cost him, obviously, it's a lot of track time during that practice session. So we'll see. I'm sure he's chomping at the bit to get back here and to prove that he can handle this place.
And that's the rookie thing versus somebody who has been here for a number of races. That 14, it is very easy, they say, to bottom out in, and so he just got caught out on that. In a way, you don't know about it. How do you avoid it?
Well, he's got one of the great guys to help him through that too, because Dario Franchitti is helping coach his rookie season with Chip Ganassi Racing. So if you're going to lean on anybody, it's nice to lean on a guy by the name of Dario Franchitti.
Well, and Dario's so good at just like laying out fact after fact in a very organized manner. You're doing this, you correct it this way. He's an excellent instructor.
Well, he's very analytical, very technical. The great Gilles de Ferran was the same way. You talk about guys that are very technical inside the car and want to know everything that's going on in and around their situation in the car and in the cockpit and whatnot. De Ferran was one of those guys. Dario, that's what made him a great champion. He was that way as well.
It's interesting that since you bring up Gilles de Ferran, he is at virtually every race. We're going to try to run him down. He's a hard man to catch, but we need to run him down and have a
He was a hard man to catch on the track.
On the track. He was very hard there.
Right.
Well, this day, and with the potential of rain, though I think it's pushed well to the end of the day, at least that's our hope. But the day itself is one that is very challenging in this regard. This is a very technical racetrack. It requires a lot of practice. Now, the guys who have gotten the test sessions in here have a reasonable idea of what's here, but now we're talking all the new aerodynamics and everything. They really need this time, and they don't need the track to be wet or, for that matter, even damp.
Well, and that's, if you go back to the test a month ago, this is really the first facility where we saw the brand new aero kits and on the wings and the winglets, both in the front wings and the rear wings, so they were able to get a taste of what was to come. But again, these drivers, they love coming here. They love going through the gears. They'll get up to 6 gears. They head towards turn 12 on what is essentially the back stretch, although if you're sitting on the other side of the track, I guess you could call it the front stretch. But they work all the gears all the way through 2 through 6. It's a very demanding road course, very exhausting for the drivers. I think they'll agree with that. Will Power repeatedly has said this is one of the more demanding road courses that these guys drive on, and that's why they love coming here, and that's why it's all the more important to win here as well. Nick Yeoman?
Well, let's catch up with Graham Rahal, one of the few drivers not waiting in his race car, stretching and warming up a little bit. Graham, of course, driving that Steak and Shake car again this week. And, hey, I think a good start to the season. 11th, 8th, and 11th in the first 3 starts. I mean, it seems like you guys have been knocking on the door, certainly for some top 5s. Positive outlook so far for the start of the season?
Yeah, I think that everybody's done a great job on this team. I mean, as you said, 11th, 8th, and 11th. And I think we're incredibly disappointed with that, whereas last year I think maybe would have been considered a good result. But, we've had the speed. The team's done an excellent job. We've had a couple things go against us, and I think everybody had some go against them in NOLA, which is the case. But, we're excited to be here. The test went really well. I think we ended up 5th fastest here after the 2-day test. And, we got the new Steak and Shake Maxim colors on here, and hopefully we can get this car up front. I mean, Barber's a great place to come race. We love being here, and, hopefully this weather will kind of clear up here. Right now it's just tough because it's still obviously looks a little damp, and you got to run slick tires, so. Unfortunately, a little tricky.
For the folks that weren't here during the test, how different were the conditions then a couple months ago to how they are now?
Well, they were perfect then. It was kind of cooler and sunny, so that's pretty quick. Very quick conditions. But today's obviously different. The temperature and the cloud cover is not a bad thing. We just need it to be dry to be fast. But we saw the speeds were pretty quick with these new aero kits. I think there was a handful of people. Under last year's pole lap, and so it'll be interesting to see how it goes here.
Looking forward to the month of May, just around the corner, settling in Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's May is what it's all about for us, and it's close. The Indy 500 is the greatest sporting event in the world, and we're all excited to be there. The Grand Prix is going to be a lot of fun, and it all starts next week, and we got some testing, got Rev Indy, and a few other things, so it's going to be busy.
Going to be a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is Graham Rahal, of course, driver for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing. Paul, going to Indianapolis, so big for that family. Of course, his father, Bobby, won the Indianapolis 500 in 1986. Just around the corner, but before that, we've got an awfully exciting race to gear up for here in Birmingham.
Dave, first, again, you were here for that test. Rahal scored pretty well.
No, he did. He was the fastest Honda in that test session, practice session, if you will, a month ago. So I think that really kick-started his season because he had some momentum coming off that. And, yeah, would he like to be on a podium? Absolutely. But I think it's been a very successful run so far for Graham Rahal, and I think he has some momentum coming back here to Barber Motorsports Park. By the way, Will Power, he was the quickest in that test session here a month ago.
Out on the track, there are really only two cars of note, Montoya and Ryan Hunter-Ray. Everyone else sits in the pits looking at the cars, working at the cars, and I'm not sure what many of them are waiting for, but nevertheless, they are waiting. We'll be back right after this.
If there's one thing Firestone's learned over its 100 years in racing, it's that if you don't keep moving forward, you're going to get left behind. So even though Firestone has more Indy 500 wins than any other tire on the planet, we're always more concerned with what we've done for you lately. That's why we're constantly trying to make our tires stronger, last longer, and handle better than ever. And we bring that same commitment to every tire we make, whether it's for the racetrack or for the open road. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Back at Barber Motorsports Park, Birmingham, Alabama, one of the most beautiful natural terrain road courses you will ever see. And there is also a bent of the artistic here. Every year they put a new sculpture on the racetrack. Sculpture, you say? Yeah. I mean, they're all over this track. You will see different representations of animals. You go up and down stairs, and they will have embedded some leaves in the stairs. I mean, they have a real sense of art and nature at this track, and it is always fun to see. That's why, for the reason one of the turns is actually referred to as Charlotte's Web, because there's a big spider, giant sculpture down there.
And you can't miss it, Paul. It's right there in the middle of the track, and it's kind of fun. We got some fun facts about Barber Motorsports. How about 12,000 azaleas here at Barber Motorsports Park? 8,000 junipers, 137 acres of Bermuda grass, and you can play golf on this course if you really, Did you bring your clubs, Paul?
No, I'm not a golfer. I don't have that patience. I've wrecked way too many a golf cart with a 4-iron.
And it ends there. There you go.
Exactly. All right, the other thing about this track, since you brought it up, is the nature of the seating. They were talking earlier about not being sure which is the front stretch and which is the back stretch from a fan's perspective. The pit straight is over by the VIP suite building, the timing and scoring, the race control
tower
building.
Yeah.
But most of the grandstands are over on the other side of the track, directly across from that building. And now here's the key. It being a natural terrain road course, the biggest crowd often seems to be up within the tree line that runs down that back stretch. And it was so enjoyable last year. It started raining. People were kind of out on the lawn down out of the tree line. And then it started raining, and they move up in there, and then it dries, and they come back down. And there is a good representation of folks sitting up there right now.
It's a great viewpoint because you can see these cars crisscrossing 3 times or so as they make their way around this 2.3-mile 17-turn layout. I had the opportunity to hop in a golf cart yesterday and ride around here, and there's it really isn't a bad position to see these cars out here. Barber Motorsports Park, it's circled on the calendar every year. This is one of those must-see events, and you got to check out the museum.
The museum is awesome.
It's unbelievable. Really one of the finer museums when it comes to either automobiles or motorcycles, for that matter. It's really one of the best in the world.
I think the finest motorcycle museum in the world. Let's go to Jake. He has Scott Dixon.
It was just last weekend, as a matter of fact, when Scott Dixon crossed 1 off the list. Now stands 5th all-time in the Verizon IndyCar Series in terms of total career wins. And here we are, the first practice session in Barber, coming off of Long Beach, and not a huge sense of urgency. I'm going to guess that that's strictly weather related, trying to get this track dry. But take me through this first session, just the thought in sitting and waiting and what it is you guys are waiting out.
Yeah, it's I think the biggest thing is, we did a lot of preseason testing here, so think most people are fairly close on their setups. It's not like you're looking for huge swings, and the track conditions are going to play against you more than anything. So the track's kind of a in-between situation right now, though it looks like some of the cars are starting to throw down some quick lap times, but it's probably going to be best towards the end anyway, so we'll more than likely wait closer to the end, get our 5 laps in that we require on a set of tires for the first session, and see how it goes from there.
The first year we came here, I remember the talk was, gosh, if they could just make the track a little wider, better passing zones. And also, people were curious to see how NASCAR Nation, if you will, would embrace it. We know the fans have continued to welcome back the Verizon IndyCar Series, but the track itself, have you learned more about it with each passing year and each test? Or do you think now there's nothing really more for me to learn in terms of where to pass, what to do on this track?
No, it's always constant. Every year you come back, it's a different configuration, could be a different tire. Obviously, this year's big for us because of the Aero kits. You're constantly learning. You're pretty naive to think you can come back and you don't need to learn anything else. So, for us, every session you're learning something. Every time you go back to the truck to look at data, you're learning something. So it's always a constant learning curve, and obviously a huge thank you to everybody here in Alabama for coming out and everybody that embraces Barber Motorsports Park. It's an amazing facility and one of the best that we go to throughout the season, and more importantly, without the fans, we wouldn't have a race here. So a huge thank you to all of them.
You were the second fastest in the in the test here. Now you've got Coca-Cola on, which is a pretty cool looking paint scheme. They're going to have enough to give you a smile?
Yeah, hopefully. It's cool, obviously, to run the Coca-Cola car. First time for me. Dario had been doing a lot of the paint schemes, the same with TK. But this year with the target car, it's obviously down to one, and all the paint schemes are on it. But very cool to see for the first time for me, at least, the Coca-Cola car.
Lastly, when will we see you in the car here in this session?
Yeah, probably in the, next 10, 20 minutes here, we'll get out there.
All right, have fun.
Thanks, man.
That's Scott Dixon, car number 9. And again, that familiar red and white Target paint scheme. But as they do with Target, they take the different products, of course, that are available at Target stores throughout North America and feature them on the car. This happens to be Coca-Cola, so that red and white looks the same, but you might notice that familiar Coke logo there on the side of car number 9.
When thinking of Scott Dixon, the first 2 races of the year, he couldn't even make it into the top 10. First 2 races, he didn't lead a lap. Then he hits Long Beach, leads 44 of the laps, wins the race. I mean, they've found something, or the team's finally gotten their feet under him.
Well, remember, you go back to the opener in St. Pete, they had that jack issue. Right. And when you've got that in the car, you just can't do much with that at all. And then they got caught out in the rainy conditions, obviously, at NOLA in New Orleans. And then you just knew with a team that good and a driver that talented, it was only a matter of time. And for Scott Dixon to pick up the win, it was an emotional win for Dixie, too. That's one of the races that everybody wants to win. So now, as Jake alluded to, he hasn't won yet here at Barber Motorsports Park. This is the next thing for his career list to check off.
We hope that you're getting some of your information off of the Verizon IndyCar 15 app or online at IndyCar.com or IndyCarRadio.com. And if you're doing that, then, of course, you have advantage of picking up the live timing and scoring as well. But for those of you who do not have that, we've got some representative times, though mildly that. Right now, Ryan Hunter-Reay is the quickest, a 1:08.95. Marco Andretti just moved up into second behind him, a 1:10.20. Munoz, a 1:10.56 for third. Montoya, a 1:22.98. So that's where the representation of good laps actually ends, just before Montoya. And still, for the majority of the cars, in fact, of the 23, maybe 20 of them are still sitting pit side right now.
Well, yeah, at least half the field. Only 9 cars have been out there thus far. Sage Karam, one of those cars, one of those drivers that's been out on this 2.3-mile layout. Karam, as mentioned earlier, he was involved in the accident during the test session, so he's going to be out there getting as many laps as he can here this afternoon and this morning as well.
And then you've been getting some announcements on a ride for one of the guys we like a lot for the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, well, you go back to Long Beach and the job that young Connor Daly did as a substitution driver out there for Dale Coyne Racing. Here's a guy, young man, who was literally having breakfast at one of the hospitality tents Saturday morning when Dale Coyne called because his driver, Rocky Moran Jr., that weekend was unable. He broke his thumb, I believe, in an accident at Long Beach. They needed a driver, so they called up Connor. Luckily for Connor, he had his fire suit and a helmet standing by.
Travels with it. Always.
Well, yeah, has helmet, will travel. So Connor immediately got in the car, shook it down, did a great job, finished 17th, I believe, which doesn't sound all that great, but the way he handled the weekend was superior. In fact, Dale Coyne was quoted as saying he had a quote-unquote perfect weekend when it was all said and done. So when you got a car owner saying that.
He was very careful.
Did a great job.
Didn't get it against the wall anywhere. Drove a nice race. Did exactly what was expected of him.
And so what does that lead to?
That gets an Indianapolis 500 ride for you.
Bad,
the official
right?
announcement
later
supposed to be made like 11 o'clock this morning.
Later this morning, but it's already been released by the team if you follow them on Twitter and whatnot, and Connor as well. But he's going to be driving the number 43 entry for Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports in a Honda-powered Dallara for those guys. So it's a big deal. That'll be his second entry in the Indy 500. That gives us, doing the math here, Paul, it gives us 33 cars.
Yes.
For the Indy 500, which would be a full field. There's also talk about adding perhaps another car, a 34th, maybe even a 35th by the time it's all said and done.
It's funny, though, that you look back to some of the days at Indy when they'd actually announce like 90, 100 cars. Now, of those 90,
some of those were
maybe 40 were real, but
if you
it was a neat number.
That's right. How did all that work?
Well, they included the rental car, they included the tow truck, all of that. Hey, speaking of Connor Daly, Jake's with him right now.
You know what? I noticed, Connor Daly, you're standing more upright, and I think it's because there's a huge weight off your shoulders. Is that accurate? Congratulations on this deal and putting it together for May with Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, and I know you've got to be excited.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, it'll be really weird doing more than one IndyCar race in a year, so I'm just hopeful that we can, eventually be in for the full season. That would be amazing. But I can't thank everyone enough who have really, we've been working on this deal, particularly with the sponsor that'll be announced eventually, for almost a year and a half. So it's been a long road, a lot of work, and I'm just extremely happy that it's come to fruition now, and we're ready to go racing again.
It's funny from a broadcast standpoint. Racing itself and broadcasting a race itself, I've always thought to myself, well, that's the easy part. That's the fun part of it. But, it's everything else, learning to know the drivers, the paint schemes. For you, getting in the car, I'm not saying it's easy, but how difficult is it to get to the point where you finally have a package put together and being able to finalize that deal? How many times have you been 100 yards away from the finish line in that scenario?
Many, many times, including before this season. I thought I would have had almost 3 full season rides, but just always short the funds, and other people had it. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not, obviously I'm still happy as can be. We've worked on, what we could put together, and we've got, I've done a race already so far, and, got another one coming up with the 500. So, we just keep working. I think it's all I can do physically myself is to make the best of the opportunity that I have in a car. And, there hasn't been many of them this year, but I think I've been able to take advantage of every opportunity so far, and that's what I hope to do in May, is just get out there and do everything I can to do the best job I can do for my sponsors and for the team and for everyone involved.
Did you feel like you maximized your opportunity at Long Beach, and were you disappointed or surprised that it didn't parlay into a ride for this weekend?
I mean, I was very happy with it. I think overall, 17th is highly unimpressive, but from where we were and from where
I think it was pretty impressive, considering all the circumstances. Yeah. Don't sell yourself short. I mean, that was a pretty impressive performance.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I got so many messages from a lot of people saying that it went really well, and Simon Pagenaud texted me, Scott Dixon texted me that night, a couple different team owners, other drivers. I mean, really was cool to receive, a lot of positive feedback. And the thing that I was most happy about is by the middle of the race, we were on pace and we were the quickest Honda, one of the quickest Hondas. So that was really nice to hear at the end of the race.
So did you think that would mean, or does it still mean, future opportunity for you in that 18?
Well, it certainly didn't hurt. I don't know what will happen in the future. I'm sure there's going to be races where they might need a driver, and I mean, I'm certainly going to be around. So, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But, for now, we'll focus on, one day at a time. Keep rolling.
The Schmidt-Peterson colors look pretty good on you. We'll talk to you later this afternoon, perhaps, after you can get all of the details out there about that 43. But congratulations again.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, again, that's Connor Daly, guys. And pretty cool. Scott Dixon wins at Long Beach and then immediately sends a text to Connor Daly telling him that he was impressed with the way he was able to pilot that 18 car to a 17th finish.
Yeah, Connor Daly, he's so well-spoken, great guy, obviously a good driver. Just witnessed Long Beach a week ago, hops in the car at the last minute, makes everything work. Shows you, though, how competitive it is for the essentially 24 seats that are available on the road in IndyCar every year. These guys are constantly working on it. Well, one of the great champions of the Indy 500 is Arie Luyendyk, and right now he's with Nick.
236.986 miles per hour. That was the 4-lap record at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Turned a lap around 239 miles an hour. Arie, good to see you again this weekend. I saw an article from Kurt Cavan as we approach the month of May about speeds going up, so I wanted to ask you about that. You're the fastest guy ever at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. How you feel about chasing those speed records here coming up the next month?
Well, I would certainly welcome it because the record has been there since 1996, so it's almost 20 years going. And, you know, I've always said if they could break it, I would really applaud it because I think it's good for... I think the fans would really enjoy it, that on a Saturday they could hear that phrase, it's a new track record again. I think that will bring a lot of excitement, and it's certainly possible with these cars. They just have to change a few things.
You're here every race weekend. We see what is your official job title? What does Arie Luyendyk do on these IndyCar race weekends?
My official job title is that I drive the pace car for the Indy Lights, for the Barbers, for the USF 2000, for the Pro Mazda, and for the IndyCar on all road courses and on all street courses.
How about this Barber Motorsports Park? I mean, we come here every year, the 6th year now. I'm always blown away just how beautiful it is. As in terms of natural terrain road courses, does it get much better than this?
It's a beautiful track. The layout is great. It's got some really cool fast corners in it. And they've always said it's not that easy to pass here, but we always see a lot of passing, so that is a myth. And just the area, the museum, everything about it is a great track for us to be at.
It's good to talk to you. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you out there driving that pace car.
Absolutely. Thanks.
That is two-time Indy 500 champion Arie Luyendyk down here on pit lane. Paul?
Well, and while you were talking, Jack Hawksworth, the 41 car, did a quick spin in 5 right in the middle of the track and got it going almost immediately. So I'm guessing part of that is that it's still a little bit damp, which Nick Yeoman, you've been pit side the entire start of this session through the 28 minutes that we have now run of the 1-hour session. Got started a little bit late. But everyone seems to be of the same attitude that we stay here until we get conditions that are closer to race.
Well, and here's the tough part, Paul. The fact is this track will dry out a little bit faster with more cars on the track, and with everybody, or the majority of the drivers at least, waiting, that process kind of slows down. So yeah, as while we haven't seen any rain in the last half hour, that track, you can still see it, and you guys high above the racetrack can certainly see some of the spots as well. There are still some damp spots around this racetrack, and I think that's why as far as what I've seen up and down pit lane, we still see a lot of hesitant drivers. Everyone's sitting on those sticker tires, the dry tires that they usually run, those black compounds, but not a lot of teams making their way out on the racetrack, and I think it's just waiting for it to completely dry up, Paul.
And again, of the guys who are out there, thank you, Nick, of the guys who are out there, the times are not all that representative. Marco Andretti is now quick with a 1:08.94, followed by Ryan Hunter-Reay, the time that he set much earlier, 1:08.95. Hawksworth, who just had to spin, is at a 1:10, and from that 1:10 of Hawksworth in third, it goes all the way down to a 1:50, even a 2-minute time in there. Only 11 cars thus far actually putting a time on the book.
It's a 23-car field here this weekend for the Verizon IndyCar Series, and as you mentioned, only about half of which are out there right now. Marco Andretti, we'll go through the top 11. 11 cars have been out on this 2.3-mile layout. Marco Andretti, Hunter-Reay, Jack Hawksworth, Munoz, Gonzalez, he is now in the 18. Rodolfo Gonzalez, who takes over for the Connor Daly ride from Long Beach. We'll talk about Rodolfo here in just a bit, but he's 5th quick in the 4 laps that he's turned so far this morning. That's followed by Juan Pablo Montoya, James Jakes, Coletti, Philippi, Kimball, and Sage Karam. Right now, the 11 cars. And we expect that we are officially now halfway through this 1-hour practice session. I would expect things to pick up here in the next 10, at least 15 minutes or so, as these guys definitely do want to get some track time before it's all said and done here this morning.
You know, when you think about it, they were all talking coming in here. I think Scott Dixon was one of those that was vocal about it, and certainly Takuma Sato, that they need the time on this racetrack because of all the new aero stuff. They're learning something every week. Of course, they had the changes in both the Honda and the Chevrolet aero kits after they found some pieces coming off during the first couple of races. And they need this time, but if it's not a track that's going to produce the mechanical traction to support that aero package, they learn very little, so why do it?
Well, even the Chevy guys, they originally started out the season with those, what they're calling rabbit ears, those little winglets on the front end of the nose cone. Those have been taken off now.
That rabbit's done.
The rabbit's gone now. So how does that affect everything? We're looking at pit out here, and Juan Pablo Montoya is watching the cars go by, so at least Juan Pablo Montoya is out of the car and waiting to get back in, undoubtedly, to get some more track time here this morning, Paul.
Kind of interesting to note, though, how many have been sitting in their cars since before the practice session. Like, again, down in front of us, Simon Pagenaud, he went out a little bit, but he's back in the pits, has been for some time, just sitting there. Actually, Ryan Hunter-Reay, in and out. He's in right now, and then Scott Dixon down a little bit further. It's hard to get a good look. No, he's up on the wall waiting for the opportunity to climb back in that car.
Some of these guys too have been known to take naps while they sit there in their car for a while.
Oh yeah.
You know.
You know that's
which is strange. It's a strange scenario, isn't it?
Well, actually,
they're that comfortable in the car.
It is strange, but a lot of people handle their nervousness that way.
Yeah.
I think maybe the first and most notable was Rick Mears, who could be in the qualifying line and fall asleep in the car. They had to wake him up so they push the car forward. Fittipaldi was that way. There's a number of drivers, certainly current, that's the way they handle all the tension. They just rack out. Nick?
And we've all seen those iconic shots over the years of drivers inside the garages at Gasoline Alley during the month of May, just hours before the race. I remember watching Bobby Rahal in 1995 just up on one of the pit boxes taking a nap. So that's how a lot of these drivers certainly settle in and settle down. A lot of them like to be cool, calm, and collected before they hop in those race cars. Elio Castroneves isn't really one of them. I've always admired the way, especially before Elio gets in the car, before a qualifying effort, before a race, it doesn't matter where it's at, what weekend it is, he's always bouncing around, shadow boxing, moving, getting himself psyched up. His teammate Will Power, kind of odd to see him pitted all the way here at pit in. Of course, had that disastrous qualifying session at Long Beach that got him caught out in the first round, and then didn't have a very good race weekend either. That Will Power ended up outside of the top 15. Actually, unofficially, he finished 20th. He sits in that car right now, and he has been in that car for the majority of this session. The crew members just kind of standing around waiting to give Will the cue. Certainly Tim Cindric up on the pit box watching those monitors, trying to see if this track will dry out. But Will Power, another guy that has just settled in his race car and waiting to get the cue from his engineer, Paul.
You know, you mentioned that Montoya was out on the wall watching. He just came out of the pit area and has been walking along in front of the control tower as well. So pretty casual approach to all of that right now.
A couple of new takers, Paul, as we now reach the 34th minute of this practice session. So, 25 minutes remain here. A couple of new takers include Tony Kanaan. Kanaan right now 7th quick at that number 10 machine, NTT Data, on the side of that bright blue Chip Ganassi Chevrolet. And also Francesco Draconi, he's out there now. But right now the top 5 still, they remain the same. Marco Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Carlos Munoz, Jack Hawksworth, and the rookie Rodolfo Gonzalez for Dale Coyne Racing.
You were talking about Dario Franchitti earlier, and he's in Scotland right now, his small home. I think it's a double wide, but it has turrets on it.
You know what? I think he actually moved. We had a conversation. I think he moved to London. If I'm not, anyway, he's over there. I'm assuming the weather there might be like what we
much
experienced.
Like this,
exactly,
because
right.
It always is.
Right. Exactly. Although, take a look, Paul. We're looking straight
clearing.
Up. I see some blue skies up there. So
certainly do. Well, anyhow, maybe 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon over there, and Dario listens in to this kind of thing.
He could be enjoying
Dario.
a cup of coffee and maybe a cup of tea or something. Dario, great to have you listening to us.
And maybe
here
he
on
could
IndyCar
text
Radio.
us and tell where, in fact, he is in the world.
Yes, where in the world is Dario
Exactly.
Franchitti?
It could be a contest. Well, we're getting more numbers up on the board. It's Andretti that's still on the top. The number that everybody's shooting at is a 1:08.94. Certainly well off previous paces at this facility. He is followed by Ryan Hunter-Reay. Takuma Sato is up there at third. Carlos Munoz is fourth, and Jack Hawksworth now sits in fifth. Hawksworth with a 1:09.51. Then he's followed by Gonzalez, then Canan, and Chavez, Filippi, and Draconi. That takes you through 10. Montoya is 11th, a 1:22.98, followed by Jakes, Coletti, Kimball, and Karam. There are 15 cars that have actually put times in, Jake.
Yeah, and I think business is about to pick up now. Elio Castroneves just went back out, I should say. This time on the, of course, dry tires. He went out on a sticker set. Scott Dixon getting strapped up as well, and it will not be long after that when we should see Juan Montoya back out as well. Montoya talking to his team right now and said that he was getting ready to, he said, as he said it, I got to get back out there. So I think Montoya also is going to strap in to that helmet and get out on that number 2 machine. So perhaps now that the sun starts to peek through some of those gray spotted cumulus clouds here over the skies of Barber Motorsports Park, that's going to seize the opportunity for people in the last 40% or so of this session to try to get in some laps, even though I do think, as Scott Dixon had told us, what we're seeing also is the result of the fact that 2 days of pretty extensive testing, everybody probably has a pretty good setup and a pretty good feel for what the car needs in terms of its balance and its setup here, but everybody wants to go out, I think, and make sure that they've got all their I's dotted and their T's crossed before we get into another practice session and qualifying later today.
And even as you were talking, the sun peeked out a little bit. We actually could see shadows on the track. It's kind of occluded up there now, but it is warming up and the track is coming into shape. In fact, this is an all asphalt track, so only one surface that they have to worry about for the Firestone Firehawk tires this week. And you just see it changing from a dark gray. It's getting lighter and lighter.
By the way, a couple of new takers out there. We saw Will Power, 2-time champion here at Barber Motorsports Park. He made his way out to the road course. And Takuma Sato, just moments ago, he eclipsed the time that Marco Andretti set. Takuma Sato at 1:08.7 in that number 14 machine for AJ Foyt Racing. Just to give you a comparative time from what these guys did a month ago in the test session here at Barber Motorsports Park, Will Power led the field at 1:07 and change, 1:07.3. So these guys still have about a second and a half or so left to work their way down to what these guys were doing here a month ago. Will Power out there right on the road course now, heading through turns 1 and 2, back up the hill, and that winding right-hander there in turn 2. So we'll see what Will Power can do on this hot lap.
16 cars have put in times thus far. Let's give you an idea of what to expect through the remainder of the day on IndyCar Radio. We have this IndyCar practice now, and it is now 39 minutes into it, so about 20 minutes left to go in this session. And then IndyCars will be back out at 1:40 this afternoon. That's Eastern Time, 1:40 this afternoon. The Indy Lights will race later today. That is at 3:50 Eastern Time, and Mark James, Davey Hamilton, and the team will be here for that coverage. And then IndyCar qualifying, again Eastern Time, is 4:50 this afternoon, and we'll have the whole team online for coverage of the IndyCar qualifying. And we're still, though, looking at kind of a changing weather situation. It seems that this is going to improve, Dave, first, but then probably right at the end or almost immediately after the IndyCar qualifying, it may start to rain once again.
Well, yeah, and I think it might even affect the Indy Lights race here this afternoon, which Spencer Piggott will start from pole. Did a great job in qualifying yesterday as those cars and drivers and teams get ready for their first race. Remember, it's a doubleheader for the Indy Lights guys this weekend. And then, yeah, by the time we get to Verizon IndyCar Series qualifying, it's going to be really interesting to see what the weather conditions will be like. You know, just to throw a little wrench into things, we might be dealing with some wet qualifying conditions or some damp qualifying conditions. So we'll see how that all plays out here this afternoon.
And of course, the team members all looking up here at the booth saying, "What are you talking about?" You know, but bad for them ends up occasionally being a really good story.
Well, it's
for
good
us.
stuff, though. It's good stuff to watch.
We don't want to see it happen because it is so tough.
Yeah, exactly. 18 cars now out on the race course. A couple of the new takers include, let's see here, Coletti, Kimball, Draconi. These guys are all working their ways up.
Chavez has dropped into 4th place.
Chavez, that's right. Gabby Chavez. What a story there for Brian Herta Autosport. Now they're riding in the top 4. Sato still pacing the field right now. His best time set about 5 minutes or so ago at a minute 8.7.
A lot of announcements out of Chavez's team too. The Brian Herta Autosports. They've now announced that they're going to have an Indy Lights car, and Mark's pretty pleased with that. And
Mark James,
like Andretti and others, they are also going to run some rallycross machines. In fact, they have 3 of them now, and the test for that season is pretty much underway. So very active team.
You see more and more teams doing that too. Andretti Autosport has really spread out and has been part of several racing series over the last couple of years. So. There is some downtime when it comes to IndyCar. These guys wrap up the season, in August? Yeah. And then you've got a couple of months to do some other stuff while we're at it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And, of course, there's an opportunity for an entirely different set of sponsors to come to like Rallycross as well, because their demographic is somewhat different.
Yep.
Works out for everybody. Nick?
Well, happy to report that all 23 cars have now joined the racing action here during practice here at Barber Motorsports Park. Sebastian Bourdais, one of the final cars. He took that Mystic electronic cigarette car out onto pit lane. And then Graham Rahal just left pit lane moments ago. He was the 23rd out of the 23 drivers to take to the racetrack. So at this point of the session, with about a little under 20 minutes to go, all 23 drivers have fired those engines and are turning laps, Paul.
And as Dave first mentioned earlier, it's Takuma Sato. This is the guy they're all shooting at. 1:08.72. That's his time. He's followed by Hunter Ray, Andretti, Chavez, and now Felipe is up there in 5th place.
Rodolfo Gonzalez, as mentioned, he's in the 18 machine for Dale Coyne Racing. Young man, 28 years old, from Caracas, Venezuela, just getting his first foray into the IndyCar series. Tested in the off-season with Coyne, Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports as well. Last year competed in ELMS championship there, Le Mans, in the LMP2 category. A couple years ago, he was a reserve driver for the Marussia F1 team. Then back in 2010, competed in GP2. In fact, Stefano Coletti from KV Racing, they were teammates back in 2010. So it's funny how it all works together. Some 5 years later, they are once again competing against one another now in the Verizon IndyCar Series. So Rodolfo Gonzalez, the driver du jour, driver of the weekend right now for Dale Coyne Racing. He's in the 18, paired up with, of course, his now teammate this weekend, Francesco Draconi, in the number 19 machine. So keep an eye on those 2 white and blue cars for Dale Coyne Racing to see how they can move up through the field this weekend.
The entire field on the race course have all put times in. A couple still down in the pits. One of them would be our defending champion, Ryan Hunter-Reay. We'll be back with more right after this.
If there's one thing Firestone's learned over its 100 years in racing, it's that if you don't keep moving forward, you're going to get left behind. So even though Firestone has more Indy 500 wins than any other tire on the planet, we're always more concerned with what we've done for you lately. That's why we're constantly trying to make our tires stronger, last longer, and handle better than ever. And we bring that same commitment to every tire we make, whether it's for the racetrack or for the open road. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
And welcome back to Barber Motorsports Park, where we just had a quick off and on by Joseph Newgarden and his 67 car. That's down in turn 2. We've only had 2 recorded spins thus far. He would be one, and Jack Hawksworth is the other. So we're looking at the right front on that car right now to look for damage. We can't see the left front just yet. That's where we report, yeah, he's got wing damage to the left front nose wing. So I think we'll see Newgarden into the pits, which coincidentally happens to be the pit right in front of us. We'll probably see him in here in just a moment or two. Will Power now puts his name at the top of the list, 1:08.36. Dixon has also eclipsed the time earlier of Sato. Dixon is second on the list at 1:08:49.
Now things are getting interesting,
Yeah.
right? We waited 45 minutes, and here it's go time now in the last 15 minutes of this practice session. Power, Dixon, Sato now bumped down to third. Ryan Hunter-Reay, two-time defending champion here in Alabama. Fourth, Quick. Joseph Newgarden, fifth. We also have a Dario Franchitti update.
And he
Paul
is?
Page. He is indeed in Scotland and tweeted a picture to us. It is beautiful, sunny Scotland. So we need some of that weather now.
No, that's not real.
That's
not
you think
real.
this is made up? Dario
Actually,
made this up?
you know what? I spent 4 days in Scotland not long ago, and it was beautiful every day, belying everything you'd ever heard
Really?
about the
There you
place.
go.
Yeah. All right, let's go down to the pits once again. Jake Query.
Watching in on Sage Karam, that number 8 machine, and the guy that piloted it last week in Long Beach is Sebastian Saavedra, who is watching now. We will see you at the Grand Prix of Indianapolis, the next event on the schedule. But I thought a pretty impressive performance in Long Beach, and for that AFS racing machine. What were your impressions once you got the chance to get back in the car and just how your weekend went?
Wow, man, like, it's very hard to describe how happy we all are on how everything went. It was a very positive weekend all around, from practice one all the way to the race. I think we fulfilled what we wanted to do. You know, we wanted to get there, clinch with the team, you know, get to know everybody, the mechanics and engineering, get adapted as quick as possible. And to be honest, like, a result was not in our position to think of. But when we saw the quick pace that we were able to have, we just went for it. We were very aggressive for it, and I thank everybody at Ganassi Racing, of course, for the amazing AFS racing car.
Now, let me ask you, as we get set for the Grand Prix of Indianapolis, obviously you were the pole sitter in the inaugural year. We know what happened there. Has that caused kind of an extra motivation for you to wait to get back in there and just kind of get a make good, if you will?
Oh, for sure, you know, I think to show that you not only have the pace, but the consistency to be able to be up there. And then you're taking away that great opportunity, your first great opportunity to really win. It hurts, but at the same time, as you say, it's a huge motivation. Now, with Ganassi Racing, I think the car that they're giving me, if we continue to consistently upgrade it and get it even better, I'm just looking forward to do it all over again.
What is your relationship with Sage Karam?
We're good friends, actually. We got to know each other a lot more now that we're both in the same team. Before, we used to work out together pit fit. Now we changed workout scenarios. So we don't know each other very well, but lately we've been going out to dinner just to understand each other a little bit more and helping each other on track and off track.
We wish you the best of luck. We'll see you before we know it. It'll be the Grand Prix of Indianapolis. We look forward to seeing you back in that AFS racing machine. And it'll be car number 8. I'm used to saying 17, but car number 8, obviously.
Let's do it. Thank you, guys.
Sebastian Saavedra, guys.
Nick Yeoman, an update on Joseph Newgarden.
Yeah, the practice session is done for Joseph Newgarden. He brought that number 67 Chevrolet for CFH Racing to pit lane. Not a whole lot of damage. The front wing, kind of the left flap, is dangling a bit. It's been torn off. I think that's certainly something that they can fix. Joseph is out of the car. We'll see if we can grab him for a quick word. Joseph, the speed looked pretty good in that race car. Walk us through that. What happened down there in turn 2?
Oh, I just made a mistake. You know, it's one of those silly errors. I think we got a good car, though. We got a good group, so plenty of time left in the weekend. Obviously, is a little bit of a damp session here, and everyone's trying to make the most of it, but I just got it wrong there, so I think we'll be all right. We'll get it ready to rock for the next session and be good to go.
How are the track conditions out there? Obviously, the track's drying as we go. Were you out there at all when it seemed a little too wet?
I mean, it's wet out there in some spots, but it's mainly dry. I mean, I think you're a pretty dry track now for the most part. Its lap times are pretty quick. You just got to be careful in these kind of damp conditions. You can have incidents like what I had, and sometimes it bites you. But I think it's pretty dry for the most part now. It'll be interesting to see what the weather does for the rest of the day. You don't know if it's going to be wet, it's going to be dry, or it's going to be a mix. So I think you got to be prepared for all conditions today.
All right, that's Chevrolet for Joseph Newgarden, though, Paul. Still pretty fast. At last check, he was 7th on the charts. So that car for CFH Racing still got a lot of speed, but they're going to have to repair that front nose for Joseph Newgarden.
Yeah, 1:08.94 was his quick time. We've had a change at the top. It's kind of that push and shove between Ganassi and Penske. Power was number 1 just a few moments ago, and then Dixon just came back and becomes the first driver to go into the 1 minute and 7 second range with a 1:07.78.
You think there's some momentum from Long Beach there at all?
Wouldn't be. Yeah, they are all over. You know, you've seen it time and time again, Dave, how you get a win, you take a step forward, and how that momentum then tends to carry for a team.
Well, it was a much-needed win, obviously for the 9 guys, for Dixie as well, Chip Ganassi. Again, you go back to the jack issues they had at St. Pete in the opener, and there's just nothing you can do with that. In fact, they did the best they could just to salvage what they did in St. Pete. Got caught out in all the rain in New Orleans, and you could just tell this is a team, this is a championship team. Scotty's a championship driver. It was just a matter of time, and now we're seeing things are coming to fruition. Great start to the weekend, obviously, for a champion here in the Verizon IndyCar Series, Scott Dixon in P1 right now with about 8 minutes remaining here in this practice session.
One of the marks of a great champion or a great championship team is how they handle those kind of adversities. Yeah. And they, in this case, don't get flustered. Nope. You do what you can. You go where you keep the car rolling. You got to finish. But we saw the same thing out of Power with all of his trouble at Long Beach.
And Mike Hull, too, who runs the shop there for the 9 guys. Great guy, very thoughtful in what decisions they make, and he's not going to get too frustrated or very steady, calm demeanor, and that's exactly what a championship team needs.
You can see that in when some of the newer teams, something happens, a little irritation develops, and that's just like an epidemic. That spreads through a team very quickly.
Well, and so many times it's the guy in charge of the team, a Mike Hall or a Tim Cindric or whatever, that the driver, he can get upset. And many times it's deserved. But you need somebody, a calm influence. And that's exactly what Mike Hall is. That's exactly what a lot of these guys are up and down pit road.
The track itself is, for all practical purposes, completely dry. There's still damp sections on the track, though. If you look down here, especially Dave to the right, where the NTT data team is, they're doing some sweeping, trying to get water out of the pit lane. And remember, again, at Long Beach, water in the pits, actually at more notably at NOLA, water on the pit entrance became an issue, and this suddenly appeared, so it's not rain.
Looks like a spill of some sort. So something to look out for as these guys clean things up in the Tony Kanaan pit. What do we have here?
Wait a minute, is this cool or what? Is this cool?
Look, just presented here.
You got one of your own. They've just come in the booth and just presented us with a Coca-Cola bottle, honoring, of course, the fact that Dixon is carrying Coca-Cola on the car. And
Kelby Krause from the public relations folks at Chip Ganassi Racing just presented you with a Paul Coca-Cola.
Is that cool?
Yeah, I
My
like
very
that.
own Coca. How do I keep this forever?
I don't know.
That is very cool.
Very nice. Yeah, what do? You can't drink it,
Nick,
right?
Nick just came on, had the advice. What'd you say, Nick?
I think it's a pretty simple scenario. You just don't drink the thing, Paul. You save it forever.
Well, see, now you need 2.
Now I'm tempted.
You need one to drink and then one to save.
Exactly. That's so nice of them. Every now and then somebody does something like that. It makes you feel so good, so much part of the game. The American Dairy Association years ago gave me a bottle of milk, only with my name on it. Only it was empty. So easier to deal with.
Well, that is milk. I don't know if you really want to keep milk around.
Well, milk is good.
How about the PR savvy of one Kelby Krause
to
present us while Scott Dixon is fastest in the session?
All over this thing.
Scott Dixon.
They probably told him to go run quick so they could do that.
So they could do that.
Just part of the fun of being part of the Verizon IndyCar Series, after all, isn't it?
So Scott Dixon has Coke on the side of the car. If he wins on Sunday, it'll be a Coke and a smile.
Very good. No wonder you get the gigantic bucks that you do.
I'm
by the way,
I'm done for the weekend.
So you know, they presented to us first. Then they went over to NBC and support and did them. So
I like the way you think, Paul.
Yeah, Townsend Bill. We have a camera that looks into the NBC booth, and Townsend Bill and the gang look. He's right in the center of the screen, and he looks pretty happy with that. About as surprised and happy as we were.
Yeah. It's the little things sometimes, Paul.
All right, as we run into the final 4 minutes of the session, the time passed is 55:09. 1 hour scheduled on the session. Here's the way they look. Scott Dixon, the Coca-Cola man, great bottles, is number 1, a 1:07.78, followed by Will Power, an 07.99. So we now have 2 cars in the 1:07 range. Then it is Felipe, a 108.06, followed by Castro Neves and Ray Hall. Ray Hall is a 108.49. Then Simon Pagenaud, Takuma Sato, Charlie Kimball, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and James Hinchcliffe. That's the top 10 for you. And those times are still in the 1 minute and 8 second range. Then moving to 11th and 12th, actually Hunter-Reay just moved up to take 10th away from Hinchcliffe. So now 11th is Hinchcliffe. Hawksworth is 12th, followed by Newgarden, who is out of the car and done for the day. Chavez and Munoz. Munoz starts the 109 second range, followed by Coletti, Bourdais, Canan, Karam. Jakes is 20th, and then Montoya, 21st, Gonzalez, and then Dracone. Nick?
Takuma Sato wins this session, or at least as of right now, 8th quick. How's that ABC supply car here around Barber Motorsports Park?
So far so good. Under the condition, it started from the dump, so the track is getting quicker and drier now, but we feel positive on the balance.
That's a positive sign. I can imagine the start to this season has not been. What's the best way to describe kind of the down results you guys have had? I'm sure it's got to have been tough.
It was a tough one, yeah. I mean, we're kicking off quite good on the St. Petersburg and qualify, but we weren't able to achieve what we wanted in terms of race result. And hopefully this weekend is just turning over. Now we try to challenge it.
You always stay so positive. I like it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is Takuma Sato at Let's Check, 8th quick. We talk about that start of the season, Paul. It has been a rough one for Takuma Sato. 13th at St. Petersburg. That's the lone bright spot, if you can call it that. 22nd at New Orleans, and then 18th at Long Beach a week ago. So for that ABC supply car for Takuma Sato to show a little speed, a good sign, and certainly a sign of things to come, hopefully, for A.J. Foyt in that bunch.
Well, as long as we're talking about his team, we still are concerned, but we hear nothing but good news about A.J. Foyt, and we understand that he will join us for the 99th running of the Indianapolis 500 after having a pretty rough patch over the winter health-wise.
He's doing fine. Yeah, everything we hear is that A.J. will be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure he'll be having the Bluebell ice cream.
No, he's probably done with that and the big porterhouse steaks.
Well, I don't know, though. He is a Texas man. Exactly.
That's going to be hard.
Keeping an eye right now on Juan Pablo Montoya, who was out there. He was towards the bottom of the timing chart, but now jumped up the last time by. Montoya jumping up to 12th quick right now at a minute 8.8. So Montoya all of a sudden finding the fast way around this Barber Motorsports Park. Once again, though, Scott Dixon still pacing the field at a minute and 107.78, followed by Will Power, Philippi, Pagenaud, Castro Neves now into the top 5. Elio Castro Neves with just a couple minutes left here in this practice session, Paul.
Yeah, we're down under 2 minutes, actually, right at, about a minute and a half to go, less than that now. As this session is about to come to an end, it is still bright overhead. The high overcast, I guess, is what the pilots might call this. But nevertheless, it means that the track is bathed in bright light, and the shadows and everything out here, we're seeing shadows. That is also a very good sign, and portends, I hope, a great afternoon. We've got another practice session, and the Indy cars go qualifying late in the day. In fact, as we wait for this session to come to an end, we'll give you the times of the entire field, and we will also give you an idea of what to expect later in the day, because the Indy Lights are coming up in head-to-head competition with their race this afternoon. So in the final moments, watching for the checkered flag to come out, less than a minute to go, and I think this turned out to be a good session for everyone. Everyone finally got out. Long wait. Session started a little bit late because they were cleaning some water off the edges of the track. And finally, everybody is out there. Everybody's put down a time, so everybody should, in theory, at least know what changes they want to make, what's out there when they come out for their second practice session.
Well, and I think it's a very positive sign if you're Will Power. Oh, yes, okay, fine. He's the reigning series champion. Yes, he's won here at Barber Motorsports Park a couple of times. He was quickest in the test session here a month ago. But you go back to what happened to these guys at Long Beach. He really didn't have a great qualifying session, got caught up, had to start towards the back of the field, then got caught up when he stalled the car on that first pit stop that he had there, and finished way back in the pack and really lost a lot of points. Will Power, Tim Cindric, the team manager and president for Penske Racing, all the guys that work on that #1 machine, they needed a good weekend, and so far so good. They're getting it here at Alabama.
Well, our clock, which is of course unofficial here in the booth, shows that they have now completed 1 hour on the track, though The IndyCar officials often let it go a little bit longer to help a team out. Checkered flag comes up right now, though. So this session will formally come to an end as each car crosses the line at the conclusion of the lap they are on. Generally speaking, you're looking at laps, Felipe turned 21 laps, as did Hawksworth. There's some of the long lap guys. And then Dixon and Power did their work. Dixon in 11 laps and Power in 13. Lower count there for like the Penske team. Certainly they waited a long time in the pits, and then they were in and out making quite a few changes. With the checkered flag out, let's run through the field for you. It's Scott Dixon, who is number one, a 107.78, followed by Will Power, a 107.99. Felipe is a 108.06. He starts the 108 category. So fourth is Pagenaud, Bourdais, Castroneves, Rahal, Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Takuma Sato, Charlie Kimball, James Hinchcliffe, Juan Montoya. That was a 10-position move up in just one lap because he was mired down at the back of the field.
Needed it too, yeah.
And then Hawksworth, Newgarden, Chavez, Coletti, Munoz, and all of those cars are in the 108 second.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes Tony Kanaan. Little bit of a surprise there, but we've seen that before. We're just kind of figuring things out, and then they come back strong. A 109.28, followed by Sage Karam, James Jakes, Gonzalez, and Dracone. So that's your 23-car field, Dave.
And all of these, by the way, still slower than the test session they had here a month ago. I would expect, as is often the case every race weekend, these times to shave off a little bit more in the second practice session here this afternoon. All, of course, to get ready for qualifying here late this afternoon at Barber.
Let's go down to the pits again. Jake Query.
That number 20 machine. Kelby just brought me my bottle of Jake Coke, guys. How about that?
Nice.
I like that.
We're doing okay today.
Yeah, Nick's got one
and
too.
Coca-Cola for Scott Dixon are one-stop shopping here. I love it. Listen, when you look at the speed charts, we had mentioned that Dixon was number one. Right there, 2 spots behind him, is that number 20 machine of Luca Filippi, who gets out of the machine now. That Fuzzy's Ultra Premium Vodka looks like it took the Barber pretty nicely for you. Take me through this session here and what maybe you had learned about this track that helped you get to this point.
First of all, our car has always been great since the very beginning of the season. The thing is that this is the very first place that we get to the race weekend that I know the circuit. So that is the main difference, just coming to a place that is not new, and there is nothing that I have to learn but just making the car as fast as possible. So it's a good start for our weekend, and I just want to keep everything at this level and try to fight for the top positions.
At the beginning of this session, did you get a chance at all to go out while there was still any moisture on the track? Because the odds are high that in qualifying we might see a wet track.
It's tough. It's hard to say what we will get in qualifying. So we all tried a little on the DAP condition. It was very, very tricky. And if it's going to be like that, it will be kind of a lottery, I would say.
All right, best of luck to you this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Again, the third fastest in that session is that number 20 Fuzzy's Ultra Premium Vodka machine of Luca Filippi. Nick?
Yeah, right at the end of that session, Sebastian Bourdais found some speed, ended up unofficially 5th on the charts. What'd you find? Was it just a matter of getting those tires up to temperature and the track kind of rubbering in a little bit?
No, it's just a matter of putting the lap together. I just made a ton of mistakes and wasn't really happy with neither my driving, neither the car. It was, I think we were a little too aggressive for the conditions, so the car was pretty loose and doing a lot of things that needed to be corrected, and I wasn't getting it right, so it took quite a few laps.
You talk about putting a lap together. Is this one of the harder places to hit your marks lap after lap to find a good one?
Not so much. Usually, when the car is good, it comes easy, but, between the water on the white lines and out of the curve, sometimes you'd come back around and somebody had splashed some water, so all of a sudden you were finding yourself in a tricky spot, and it's just tricky conditions, really, and maybe a bit too aggressive on balance for us since the track wasn't rubbered in yet.
Appreciate it. Thank you. That is Sebastian Bourdais. He ends up that session in 5th, Paul Page.
And so the Indy cars, many of them already under tow, headed back into the paddock area, located right behind the control tower here at Barber Motorsports Park. And the crowd actually thickens up a little bit up under the tree line over on the other side of the track, and it looks like there's some pretty good activity going on in the VIP areas there as well. Lunch probably being the next thing on their agenda. Here's our agenda for the remainder of this day. IndyCar will practice again. These times are all Eastern times. 1:40 for the IndyCars for their second practice, and then the Indy Lights race at 3:50. And then IndyCar qualifying at 4:50 this afternoon. Of course, IndyCar Radio will have coverage of all of those sessions, and anytime you see an IndyCar on the racetrack, then you can rest assured IndyCar Radio is on the air. So I'm Paul Page. Dave, first, thanks for being with us. First chance to work side by side like that.
Can we do it again later on?
Absolutely.
Okay,
good time. Good
right.
time. And thanks to Jake and Nick down in the pits for getting everything done for us. We're going to say so long for just a little bit now. Next up will be the second IndyCar practice, 1:40 this afternoon Eastern Time. Have a great day.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
A.J. Foyt down the main straightaway. The checkered flag is out. A.J.'s hand in the air. He is the winner. A.J. Foyt at Indianapolis has won his fourth 500-mile race. A.J. Foyt, our winner. The flag will fly now for Tom Staba and then for Al Unser. We will be talking with all of these drivers in just a moment.
And we await A.J. Foyt along with a host of others, including Tony Holman, who is cheering as loudly as the crowd. We've seen what has never been seen before, beginning with a woman driving in the field in the morning and A.J. finishing 4 up front at Indianapolis. Headed into victory lane now, A.J. Foyt and the gleaming Gilmore 14 Coyote, the Gilmore Racing Team, home, and he wins again.
And there's the checkered flag for Mark Donahue, winner of the 1972 Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Oh my goodness, we have 7, 8, 10 cars in a pack headed for one Jerry.
Well, you talk about the crowd getting on their feet. They do. So far, so good. They are nose to tail, a little bit of room. There's about an 8-car pack in front of Gary Lee right now.
Yeah, and in that pack, second place and third place. Little Al has gotten around Jack Villeneuve. He's back up to second, and now 2 cars separate second and third. Mr. Excitement is that youngster, that second-generation driver. We're impressed with Jack Villeneuve, but right now he's dropped to third. And there's Al Unser Jr., and then Bobby Rahal. Jack Villeneuve goes on the outside. He goes high. You can't go too wide in the turns. They're doing it today.
They sure are coming through 4. Now they go single file. Maybe they got a little scared last time. Who knows? But going through 4 this time, everybody single. They come toward the main straightaway. Bob Jenkins.
That was just a breathtaking moment.
This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
Mile race.
Oh my goodness, we have 7, 8, 10 cars in a pack headed for one Jerry.
Well, you talk about the crowd getting on their feet. They do. So far, so good. They are nose to tail, a little bit of room. There's about
back in front of Gary Lee right now. Yeah, and in that pack, second place and third place. Little Al has gotten around Jack Villeneuve. He's back up to second, and now two cars separate second and third. Mr. Excitement is that youngster, that second-generation driver. We're impressed with Jack Villeneuve, but right now he's dropped to third. And there's Alonso Jr., and then Bobby Rahal. Jack Villeneuve goes on the outside. He goes right. You can't go too wide in the turns. They're doing it today.
They sure are coming through four. Now they go single file. Maybe they got a little scared last time. Who knows? But going through four this time, everybody's single. They come toward the main straightaway. Bob Jenkins.
That was just a breathtaking moment.
This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now, perfectly aligned, back on the main straightaway to call the start of the greatest spectacle in racing, the voice of the 500, Paul Page.
Oh, they came off of turn 4 beautifully. They look for the green flag. The green flag is out. And from the center of the road, James Hinchcliffe pulls away. Howard tried to duck over behind him, but Hinchcliffe is in front.
They must have found something with that car because he was not happy with the balance, not happy with the amount of horsepower he could have during that first run. Marco slides that bright yellow and blue Snapple car into pit lane. The fueler will engage the hose and the 4 tire changers will go to work. Marco has charged to the front. His grandfather won in 1969. A good pit stop for Andretti as he exits pit lane.
On the race, swung past on the inside of Ed Carpenter. Marco Andretti in third, then Scott Dixon, Elio Castroneves. That's the front 5 in the turn number 3, Martin.
Not sure on restarts that up front is the place to be because of what happens with the slipstream, if you will. Ed Carpenter right there. Marco Andretti, then Scott Dixon, then Elio Castroneves. Front 5, set sail for the north end. Hunter Ray trying to draft. Carpenter going into one.
And Carpenter on the outside. Ryan Hunter Ray on the inside. Hunter Ray will make the pass again. And Marco Andretti stays in the number 3 spot. He may want number 2.
Guys, Will Power, Ed Carpenter, Marco Andretti. Power beats him out of pit lane. So it's Power, Marco Andretti, Ed Carpenter, followed by J.R. Hildebrand.
And Hunter Ray darts in, moves to the outside as they get the white flag. 1 to go, Jerry.
They are side by side. Elio looks to the outside. Elio will have to take the number 2 spot. He's right on the rear wing of Ryan Hunter Ray.
Hunter Ray looking for number 1. Elio Castroneves looking for win number 4. Ryan Hunter Ray, 8 car lengths in front as they move in the backstretch for the final time.
And Elio make the move. 3 laps too early. Does he have anything at all left in the tank? A couple of turns to go. Ryan Hunter Ray leads in Indy.
Turn number 800 is upon us. Less than a car length is the difference. The final turn. Hunter Ray to call the finish. The voice of the 500, Paul Page.
And it is Ryan Hunter Ray that is going to lead Elio Castroneves across the line. Ryan Hunter Ray has his first Indianapolis 500-mile race win. Elio Castroneves will have to wait for another year to get his 4th victory at the Indy 500.
This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
John Andretti starts to close into the back of Mansell. So John Andretti, who will drive 2 races in one day, is having one incredible drive here this morning. John Andretti strong, trying to run down the line. Nigel Mansell, a very quiet month. And look here, they almost go 3 wide. Now they get down into single file. And Robbie Gordon now running strong. He had some handling problems early, but Robbie moving up through the field.
As they head through 4, the big battle right now, Boycel clears traffic and gets through very safely. And everyone again making it through 4 as they head toward 1 and Jerry Baker.
Well, Mansell
Wetzel's found some running room all by his lonesome. Now we were watching Eddie Cheever. Man, he appears to be really flying out there. Oh, we got a bad crash in one. Two cars are gathered in. We've got a quick flash fire. It is out. Cars dive to the inside. One of the cars up against the outside wall dodges the crash. They are side by side just as we come out of number one.
Less than half a lap ago. Brody Johncock by 5 car lengths over Rick Mears. They're in the north short chute. Here they come. This is the final quarter lap. Johncock maintains the lead. The voice of the 500 Paul Page. Who's going to win it?
Gordon Johncock off the fourth turn. Mears is right behind him. Johncock. Mears makes a try. Johncock wins it by less than 1/10 of a second. Gordon Johncock has won his second 500. Rick Mears comes across in second place, almost side by side. And you should see the celebration that is taking place at the Patrick Racing pits. An incredible celebration now as they run down toward victory lane. What a finish.
Let's see what happens with the 68.
He's going to climb
the fence. He is out of the car, and Helio Castroneves climbs the fence in the front straight.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
One-two program. Check.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
The lead is down to 2.5 car lengths. Helio Castroneves looking for 2 in a row. Paul Tracy has him in his sights.
Oh, the qualifying struggle for Team Green, but boy, Paul Tracy looking good right now. A crash back in 2 as Tracy tries to make the pass in the north. Then he heads toward Preston Airy. Action is on the speedway.
And Paul Tracy has made the pass. He's gotten around Castroneves. Mikey, heads your way.
Paul Tracy will take the yellow flag. It looks like he will win the Indianapolis 500 as the yellow and white are displayed.
Yes, we can see him now, and he's right down to that white line on this lap, too, as he streaks through here, right up onto the back stretch, and in just a second or so, Bernie Herman should be able to see. Okay, Howard, here comes Spinelli now, the Torrance man from California. White helmet, blue visor, and I'm sure he's going to be a very, very happy guy. And down to you, Mikey Hurst.
Okay, Bernie, we've got it. Here comes Martinelli. Shows he's fast as he gets around me here by Roger McCluskey. McCluskey spins there in the corner. Hold it. We've got one car going around and he's sideways. The same spot. off than Eddie Sachs was. McCluskey right there. He's okay. He's sitting in his car. The cars are coming around him. We'll follow. See if it's all right. They're all going on the inside. McCluskey halfway through the turn, sideways, the exact same spot where Eddie Sachs was just a few minutes ago. Now they're running under the yellow flag. Jones went around it a moment ago. McCluskey passed him on the
And there's the checkered flag for Parnelli Jones, the winner of the 1963 500-mile race.
As they come onto the main stretch, it's Mario Andretti being chased by Danny Sullivan. Sullivan darts out, pulls alongside Mario Andretti. It's a drag race down the main stretch. Can Sullivan pull Andretti into the first turn? Ron Carroll.
It is Danny Sullivan gets him. Danny Sullivan gets him down. No, he's whirling. No, he's spinning. Danny Sullivan spins, but he goes around twice and gathers it.
Absolutely incredible. Danny Sullivan spun in front of Mario Andretti, gathered the car back up and continues on, and Sullivan only fell back to second place. Larry Henry, they're coming to you.
And welcome back to Barber Motorsports Park, Birmingham, Alabama. The yellow flag flies at the start-finish line, indicating to the Verizon Indy cars lined up in the pits that we're within a few seconds of starting of their second practice session of the day, leading up to, of course, the race here for the Verizon Indy cars tomorrow afternoon. The fastest we saw in the first session was 107, only two guys in that range, Dixon and Power. The record here is a 106.775. We are dry. The temperatures are a little bit warm, but there's still the possibility we're going to see them drop down quickly and be there near that track record, if not eclipse it. Well, the green flag flies, and the Indy cars have moved out onto the racetrack. Dave First is alongside from RTV6 Indianapolis, and if you're in the city for the 500, you really want to catch the show he does with Tony Kanaan. He and TK are just awesome together.
Yeah, well, thanks. We look forward to that. Primarily looking forward to what's going to happen here this afternoon, and of course tomorrow, sixth trip for the Verizon IndyCar Series to this beautiful road course layout here at Barber Motorsports Park. So we'll see what they can do. Will Power bounced back nicely after a 20th place finish at Long Beach a week ago. He was second quick in this morning's practice session. Scott Dixon the quickest at a minute 7.7. All of those, by the way, still slower than what these guys tested at a month ago in that open test they had here to test out the new aero kits and whatnot for the IndyCar Series. So we'll see what they can do. I expect that time to go down a little bit here this afternoon as we look ahead to qualifying later this afternoon, Paul.
As they roll out on the slow first lap, and that brings, of course, many of them back into the pits almost immediately as they do what is now called the installation lap. We used to call it running for leaks. Nevertheless, it's all the same thing. And Nick Yeoman is on board with us, as is Jake Query. Nick, what do you have for us?
Appreciate it very much, Paul Page. Good to join you and Dave First this sunny, thankfully, afternoon here at Birmingham, Alabama at Barber Motorsports Park. Dave talked about those speeds that we saw during the test session. Still not sure if we're going to see those speeds until qualifying later this afternoon. When I talked to Graham Rahal during the practice session this morning, he said that the conditions for that test a couple months ago were just about perfect. So we're still rubbering this racetrack in, so we should see speeds increase from what we saw this morning. The good news, haven't seen any precipitation for about the 4 or 5 hour period that we've been here at the racetrack. As I mentioned, the sun is out. There are some ominous clouds in the area, but Paul, as of right now, no precipitation. And thankfully, all 23 drivers in those race cars and turning laps to start this practice session here at Barber.
This is a session, Nick, that is scheduled for 45 minutes, and then later today the Indy cars will qualify. In fact, let's give you the schedule right now. The Indy Lights race will be on the air Eastern Time, 3:50. That locally is 2:50, so if you're here at the track in the area, 2:50. Don't mix those two up. And then, of course, IndyCar qualifying comes on at 4:50. Again, that's Eastern Time. Here in the Birmingham area, we're talking 3:50. So there's still a great deal more to go, and the knockout qualifying that they have for the Indy cars are just terrific. And, of course, the lights races have been great so far this year. Down to the pits once again, Jake Query.
You know, keeping an eye on the activity here in this second practice session. Keep in mind, there was no Verizon IndyCar Series practice yesterday. This is essentially for the Verizon IndyCar Series a 2-day show. Practice, qualifying today, race tomorrow. That's because there was an extensive 2-day test that took place just over a month ago. So as a result, most of these teams have pretty good information. Now this morning it was a pretty fractured practice because of the fact, as you had mentioned, the precipitation and moisture on the track. There was really no urgency for cars to get out on the track. One of those who was in the top 3 in speeds is that number 20 machine, that of Luca Filippi. Now Filippi had told me after the session that he really liked the fact that this is the first track he's come to where he's had extensive knowledge of the track itself, and that he feels very comfortable here, thus the reason why he was able to put that car into the top 5. One other note here along pit road, right now Scott Dixon sits on pit road. He was one of the fastest in the earlier practice session. He was second fastest in last month's test. As he sits on pit road right now, he has empty pit road in front of him. That's because only 2 cars will be in front of him in this pit road in terms of the pit exit. The very first pit stall, Elio Castroneves, followed by then just behind him, that would be his teammate of Juan Montoya. Keep in mind the pit selection goes based upon qualifying order the previous week. Dixon would be 3rd, then Hunter Ray, and then Simon Pagenaud. The one interesting storyline in all of this is Will Power, who presumably, of course, our defending series champion, who will be competing to defend his championship and seemingly will be in that hunt all season long. He did not have a good qualifying session down in Long Beach, or out in Long Beach, so as a result, he is much, much further down the road here. Could be an issue, perhaps, if there's ever a time where he needs to come in. He's got a long road of cars coming in and out ahead of him as he gets back out onto this track.
Well, Dave, you were here. By the way, we have a red flag just came out, and it's for the 18 car. That is Rodolfo Gonzalez, who is in his first IndyCar race ever, so he's got some of those rookie teething issues going on.
So we should forgive him, is what you're saying.
Yeah, sure. He didn't hit anything,
okay.
And it's going to take a little time out of the session.
If you're Dale Coyne, more importantly, he didn't hit anything.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So you were here at that test session that they had.
Yeah.
Run through that a little bit for us.
Well, it's a 2-day test, and they literally go over every bit they can in the 2 days that they have. Start around 10 or so in the morning, go until lunchtime, take a break, and then go back at it hard in the afternoon. And the interesting thing with all these aero kits, both for Honda and Chevrolet, there are so many more things to check, so many more things to change. Let's tweak this. Can we this? And I remember talking to Graham Rahal during the test. I asked him, can there almost be too many things to check? And he shook his head. Oh, yeah. You try to get in as much as you can, and in a practice session like we saw earlier this morning and a practice session we're seeing right now, that's exactly what they're doing, testing whatever they can, change this, tweak that, to see if they can shave a little time off in their laps. And although the first practice session this morning, we didn't see as much of that, I guarantee you they're looking at it hard here this afternoon, and they've only got a 45-minute session, so time is of the essence here.
You know what really impressed me about that test, too, was the aero kits came out like 3 days prior to that. So
for Honda, yeah, especially, yeah.
All the teams had to mount those and make sure that they fitted. Fortunately, they fit very well. And did they have much trouble when they brought the aero kits here? Was there much changing around, many questions?
I don't think so. I mean, everything seemed to fit pretty well. And the interesting thing is, now that they've kind of settled down with the road and street course aero kits, things are going to get jumbled up a little bit a week from tomorrow at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway when they run for the first time on the oval. Front wing, rear wing, the aero kits they have set up for those tracks. So it's all going to start over for these guys here in a week's time, a week from tomorrow.
The Hamaltro safety team got Gonzalez restarted. He is heading for the pits right now. The yellow flag stands at the starter stand as an indication to the teams that it'll be just a minute or so, and they will give a green flag, and they will go back into the action. And just the brief time that they were out, 7 minutes, by the way, and 20 seconds now done in this 45-minute session. Here's the way it looked. Elio Castroneves laid down the quick time, a 1:08.28, followed by Ryan Hunter-Reay, an 08.92, and Gabby Chavez, 09.16. So he starts the 09, but of course, we're only talking 3 laps for all those cars.
Yeah, and it's a 23-car field, so 3 of the cars, as Jake Query mentioned, Scott Dixon being among them, although I take a look down at the Scott Dixon pit, the 9 pit, and it looks like Scott Dixon has made his way out of the run course. In fact, there he is now in front of us as he makes his way through Charlotte's Web, turns 5, 6, and 7. So a couple of cars still yet to get out there. Scott Dixon among them. He is out there now.
We were talking earlier about the fact that there are so many sculptors and just visual art all around this track. Hey, that's Charlotte's Web. I mean, that's really impressive to look at. It's huge.
Well, I like what they've added to it. The folks here at Barber Motorsports Park have burned in or painted anyway a actual spider web there. So you've got the Charlotte, you got the huge spider, little baby spiders all over. There are some really cool little statues and whatnot all around this great 2.3 mile facility. And if you're here, do yourself a favor and walk around, ride around, just check it all out before it's all said and done here this weekend. It's beautiful.
So the green flag being back out, they're coming up to speed now. In fact, right now there goes Dixon across the line with his new Coca-Cola sponsor on the side. Still a Target car, still red and white, but now Coca-Cola with a favored position on the car. And as mentioned earlier, they do that. They pull up the Target participant merchandisers, and they give them an opportunity each race for a different advertiser to be on the car. It's a pretty good program. Also helps get more money in.
And they stopped by and they gave us a Coke out of it. So
yeah. Have you had yours?
Quench your thirst a little bit. I have not. I don't know if we should open up our little bottles that have our names on them as well. So
we should. For those of you who weren't here, Coca-Cola came up and gave us bottles of Coca-Cola with our names on them. So that's pretty cool.
A lot of the folks as well up and down the garage area and the pit area. So a nice little promotion for the folks at Coca-Cola as we see Tony Kanaan now head out of his pit stall and make his way out to the road course. TK, a lot of people scratching their heads about Kanaan right now. 19th quick in that practice session this morning, just a tick ahead of his teammate, rookie Sage Karam. So some work there to be done for sure with those two machines, although Scott Dixon, the other teammate, along with Charlie Kimball, but Scott Dixon was the quickest again in this morning's practice session. So perhaps some time for those two guys in Kanaan and Sage Karam to make up some extra time, make up some speed here this afternoon.
Speaking of Dixon, he just dropped the right rear off going through 2, and now we've got Will Power spinning the car. And that's over in turn 2 as well. I wonder, there was a car earlier, looked like they blew an engine in one of the other sessions we're here, and it was right in the same spot in 2, so we'll keep an eye on that. Let's go down to Nick.
Yeah, certainly watching some of the interesting things happening down on pit lane as Will Power appears that he got that number 1 car fired back up for Team Penske. Standing down here in the pit box of the ABC Supply Company, AJ Foyt Racing, and Larry Foyt is the strategist for Takuma Sato. Takuma showed some speed. Larry, what's the game plan for this session? I know this morning it was a little disjointed with the weather. Is the game plan just 45 minutes, trying to turn as quick as you can?
Yeah, sorry I couldn't hear everything there. But yeah, we just got to get ready to qualify. So, this is a tough place to pass, so you definitely got to have a good qualifying session. And rate's 50% from what it looks like, so we just got to see what we got here.
How frustrating has the start of the season been for this 14 group? I know the results simply just haven't been there.
Yeah, no, they haven't, but we're just trying to figure out this new aero package and learning every weekend, and that's all we can do, and hopefully here get our competitiveness back up.
I'd appreciate it. Larry Foyt, he's the strategist for Takuma Sato, who had a good run this morning in the practice session. He was in the top 10 on the speed charts as that 14 car trying to make his way up the speed charts here in this second practice with qualifying later this afternoon, Paul Page.
Well, we mentioned it was going to happen, and it did officially now, and that is that Connor Daly has now been officially announced as having a ride for the Indianapolis 500. Good little session. A pretty proud father sitting there, Derek Daly, back in the room.
I couldn't tell who had a bigger smile, Connor Daly or his dad, Derek Daly.
Well, Connor was being cool. Derek, he was beaming back there.
Proud papa. But good news, certainly for fans of Connor Daly, who did a tremendous job last week at Long Beach when he finished 17th there. Hopped in the car that Saturday morning and really did a nice job for Dale Coyne Racing. In fact, Dale was quoted as saying he had a quote-unquote perfect weekend. And one thing leads to another, and Connor had been working on some stuff earlier anyway, and guess what? Connor Daly is going to be driving the number 43 in next month's 99th running of the Indy 500. So good news for Connor. In fact, we hope to hear from him later this afternoon here as well.
Still nobody into the 1 minute and 7 second range, but Luca Felipe jumped up. He is now number 1 with a 1:08.09. The top 3, Felipe, Castroneves, and Hinchcliffe.
Scott Dixon still hanging in there. He's fourth quick right now in the just 2 laps that he's turned. In fact, Dixie is already back here on pit road. Scott Dixon, young man, Kiwi, has yet to win here on the road course at Barber Motorsports Park. And he says, absolutely, this is one of those races and places that he would like to check off his bucket list before his career comes to an end. So Dixon fourth, Juan Pablo Montoya, who I thought really struggled this morning in the practice session. All of a sudden now he's in the top 5. Sebastian Bourdais, Charlie Kimball, Sato now still in the top 10. Graham Rahal in the top 10 so far in this practice session. And Ryan Hunter-Reay, the 2-time champion here at Barber Motorsports Park, he's 10th quick thus far.
And you know, Dixon made a mark a week ago at Long Beach, and that was he moved solely onto the 5th place on the all-time wins list. That's quite an honor for him, and he eclipsed Bobby Unser, who immediately responded by sending out a video of his tribute dinner last week to everybody. Bobby understands you got to stay in the spotlight. He certainly got
And if anyone can, it's Uncle Bobby, right?
Exactly. Well, there's more from Barber Motorsports Park right after this.
If there's one thing Firestone's learned over its 100 years in racing, it's that if you don't keep moving forward, you're going to get left behind. So even though Firestone has more Indy 500 wins than any other tire on the planet, we're always more concerned with what we've done for you lately. That's why we're constantly trying to make our tires stronger, last longer, and handle better than ever. And we bring that same commitment to every tire we make, whether it's for the racetrack or for the open road. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Welcome back to Birmingham, Alabama, and Barber Motorsports Park for the Verizon Indy Cars, another road circuit. That's what it's been the first 3 races. There'll be one more after this. That, of course, is the Grand Prix of Indianapolis at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then, of course, preparations in full form for the 99th running of the Indianapolis 500 later in May. Thus far, it's been no one to get as fast as they were before. Elio Castroneves, though, just eclipsed Felipe at a 1:08.03. Let's go down once again, Nick Yeoman.
Yeah, that's right, Paul. Nice opportunity to catch up with Joe Birkmeyer, who covers the IndyCar Series for Trackside Online. Joe, 3 races in the books. What's the biggest storyline that you've been following this season?
Really, this season it's been the Aero kits. Can Honda finish developing the Aero kits and catch up with Chevrolet? Chevy's got some pretty stout teams, and Honda's, so far, they're still behind.
Obviously, all these teams had a chance to test here at Barber during the off-season. How big do you think that's been to come here and a lot of these teams roll off the trucks and find speed?
It definitely helps from the base setup, but the temperatures are a little bit different, and as you guys have talked about, weather could be a factor later, so they've not really run here in the wet yet.
Ryan Hunter-Reay's won the last 2 races. Obviously, Elio Castroneves, Will Power have wins here. What are some names that maybe you're keeping an eye on that might be someone to watch for on Sunday?
If after the first practice session, both Luca Filippi and Sebastian Bourdais looked good, so those would be good names to see up front.
Where can everyone find the stuff you guys are covering there on Trackside Online?
We're at tracksideonline.com.
Appreciate it very much. That's Joe Birkmeyer covering the series for Trackside Online. Paul, a lot of favorites, and certainly as he talked about, those Penske cars starting to find their speed with Elio Castroneves at the top of the charts.
Well, and his one shout-out, Luca Filippi is still second quick here. Of course, as Jake Query noted, this is a 2-day deal for the Verizon Indy cars. Practice 1, practice 2, qualifying all occur today. This is practice number 2 that they're in now. And then they will go to qualifying at 4:50 Eastern time this afternoon. That knockout qualifying that is so good and changes things so quickly and has put some guys really back in the field where they probably didn't belong, but they also didn't pay attention at some point.
Well, you talked to Will Power. See what happened.
I didn't say Power out loud. I wanted you to do that.
Well, I did that. Yeah, you go to Will Power last Saturday in Long Beach. Waited during that qualifying session that he had. Sadly, he waited too long. There was an accident, slowed things down, and by the time the clock wound up, he didn't have a very hot lap and didn't advance in the knockout qualifying session. So lesson learned, I think, if you're Will Power and the Penske bunch. Right now, the top 5, and I think we'll touch on some of what Joe had to say about the Chevys and the Hondas. We see right now The Chevrolet is going 1, 2, 3, 4 with Helio Castroneves the quickest right now at a minute 8.03. Then you've got Felipe, Dixon, Montoya. That's the front four, all with Chevy power. The top Honda then is James Hinchcliffe in the number 5 machine for Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports. I remember an interview we had at St. Pete. We asked the Honda folks about their aero kits. What are they going to be working on? And they flat out said, hey, look, our emphasis is the Indianapolis 500. It is on the oval. We want to win Indy. And so what they did is constructed an aero kit that works well, they think anyway, will work well at Indianapolis, and then everything else will be worked on after that. So maybe the road and street courses, maybe not the, I don't want to say not the primary concern, but it's something secondary considering how much money is at stake when it comes to winning the Indy 500. So I think you'll see Honda step up their game, certainly in May, but already we've seen a little bit this year as well. Right now, again, Hinchcliffe in the top 5 for the Honda boys.
Yeah, and not just the money, the prestige. That's, I think, worth a great deal more, and it's more what these manufacturers are looking for, is to be able to say for a full year, we won the Indianapolis 500.
Well, you've got that Honda badge next to an Indy 500 win. That means something to the boys at Honda.
Think about what that's going to mean next year. This is the 99th running of the Indy 500. Next year, the 100th running of that race. Those are bragging rights that are probably good for 15 or 20 years.
I was going to say, do you think you want to win the 100th Indy 500? Absolutely. 99th isn't so bad either, though.
Well, we all know that the Mormon Corporation won the very first race, and so if you remember that one, you're probably going to remember the 100th.
And we're still talking about the Marmon Wasp, too, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. So we are now into this session with about 25 minutes yet to go. The top of the field remains about the same. Oh, Dixon actually just laid down a faster lap. He is a 1:08.08, and that moved him around Felipe and into second place. So the top of the list, Castroneves, Dixon, Felipe, Montoya, and Hinchcliffe. 4 Chevrolets, 1 Honda.
I'm reserving all judgment on the folks at Honda Performance Development, HPD, on to see what happens after the Indy 500. And those that are out there, they're criticizing and all the websites and whatnot about Honda, I think the folks should really pause a little bit and reserve judgment to see what those guys have when it comes to the Oval at Indianapolis next month.
Well, albeit it was an unusual race with rain pouring the whole time, but Honda did score their victory with Hinchcliffe.
Hinch got the win.
Yep.
In fact, I remember some folks at Honda saying, you know what, we'll take it.
We'll take that one. Yeah, exactly.
We'll take it.
It's so interesting for all of the people who are involved in the sport, like Honda, like Chevrolet, like Firestone, and the devotion that they put to this thing, the endless hours of work just to get another half of a tenth of a second.
Well, the aero kits, what did they spend on just development of the aero kits? Millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So this means something. There's prestige in winning races. There's prestige certainly when it comes to winning Indy, and there's prestige here. You ask Ryan Hunter-Reay, he's very happy. He's got 2 wins here at Barber Motorsports Park.
And when you talk about the Verizon Indy cars, you are talking about truly elite. I mean, the cars are spectacular. If you're going to get into this, you need to spend a lot of money.
No doubt.
And when you do that, it comes back for you. That's a very good thing. Well, in just a moment, we're going to be able to talk with at least part of the Daly clan after the big announcement today, and that would be my former broadcast partner, Derek Daly, who has just stepped into the booth. And we were saying earlier when we were talking about Connor, what we were saying was that we weren't sure whether you were smiling more, Derek, or whether he was.
Well, I can guarantee you it was him. Inside, outside, because...
Yeah, but he looked pretty cool up there. I mean,
yeah,
he was cool.
I mean, as we all know, young drivers look just for that opportunity to try and go and demonstrate what they can do. And because of a variety of people, he'll have the chance at the Indy 500, a place that he loves to be there. Even when there's nothing going on, he likes to be out.
Well, he's born steeped in the Indy 500. By the way, Will Power just broke into the 107s, a 107.73 is the number they have for him. Derek, we talk a lot about the younger drivers and what they have to do, the dues that they have to pay to even get close to the Verizon IndyCar Series. Can you kind of run us through what you do, because obviously you helped Connor all along, and how complicated that really is and how much money is involved?
It's a very complex, difficult sport to navigate. Unlike stick and ball. I mean, if you can throw a football, there's scouts and there's coaches and there's financing and there's schools and there's colleges and there's everything that will provide you to everything you need to develop your skill. In motor racing, they look at you and say, what? And so there is no path. There is no defined path. Now, luckily, we have the Road to Indy system that was set up here. So you now have an environment where at least parents can come invest in their kids. Sponsors can potentially come invest in a structured program. And if you learn the skills and if you learn the package, if you put it all together and you're successful enough, then you hope to catch the eye of a team who maybe wants to give a young driver a chance. Now, there are teams that are emotionally involved in the sport that genuinely do it because they love racing. They're the teams that young drivers need to find because they'll help them along. And then you hope that at some stage during those formative learning years that you impress a Roger Penske, a Chip Ganassi, a Michael Andretti, the bigger, better teams, and you sort of try and navigate your way. Now, along the way, how do you get to that point? You know, Conor took a very different route. After winning at Long Beach and the Indy Lights, he was leading the championship. He did something nobody's ever done before, walked away to go to the most difficult learning environment he could in Europe. 4 years, rough and tough tumble of Europe, because he believed, I can only become better if I do that. He now, the frustration he now has is the difficulty in trying to prove that. And so the Long Beach opportunity with Dale Coyne was perfect. Last minute call up, Conor jump in, see how it all goes, and he did an outstanding job.
And he handled it so well, absolutely.
Derek, there is some that question, okay, what if Conor would have just stayed here in the States and tried to pursue the open wheel ranks through that? And I would argue, and maybe you would chime in on this too, I would argue that if he didn't go overseas, he would always wonder in the back of his mind, what if? What if I didn't give that a shot, just to see?
And that is a really good point, because how do you quantify what he learned over there?
Right.
Is it better? Is it sharp? Is he sharper? Is he technically more astute? Does he know what he needs in a racing car? And can he now bring that to an IndyCar team here? His belief is yes. My belief is yes. But I will admit, Dave, he does question sometimes, maybe I should have stayed here. It was the easier road. And maybe that's the correct answer at this particular moment in time. But for the next 10 to 15 years on the long-term view, maybe what he did, we'll all be looking back on it and say, do you see the decision he made for the long-term play? And the hope is, and he hopes that all plays out in his favor.
You talk time and time again, Derek Daly, about the money that's needed for any young driver to find his place and move up in the ladder. And you've actually had some ideas on how you may get money to the drivers, some programs.
And there's no set answer to how these young drivers navigate the maze that we have. But without a doubt, you have to emotionally get people engaged in your program first. And that starts with, as we call the F&F, friends and family. Relationships that you already have are the ones most likely that you'll have to develop in the early stages to get you on the platform, to prove that you are good, you have talent, you can win. And once you begin to plug into all of those, and they're probably within your sphere of influence, then you have to ramp it up and begin to put instead of sponsorship or benevolence, as we call it from the lower levels, then you have to create commercially viable packages. And that gets more and more difficult every day because of the play for the sports dollar, that there are so many plays and tugs away from motor racing.
It's never been easy, has it, Paul?
No, it never has.
And Derek Daly, who joins us up here in the booth. It's never been easy, but the bottom line, Derek, is it tougher than ever?
I believe it's tougher than ever. The window is smaller than ever. And I think spec car racing that we've had to go to control the costs, it's actually made it worse because everybody now has the same information. Everybody can make their car go sort of fairly well. So anybody with a reasonable budget from a family can come in and buy themselves into a reasonably successful ride.
Right.
And when you have a race as big as the Indy 500, what's the value in a driver just being able to, doesn't matter what it costs him or it costs his family, Can you imagine the photo op? I raced at the Indy 500.
Exactly.
It's such a great draw, but in turn, it just makes it that much more difficult. But as I say to Connor and any other young driver, consider it a mental test for you to overcome and a test of your resilience that you stay on track, and if and when your chance does come, you make sure you're ready.
Sure.
Yeah.
Dave, I had dinner a year ago with Derek, also at the table with Scott Goodyear and Eddie Cheever.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the Formula One film, Rush, and that got them, especially Eddie and Derek, talking about the days of Formula One when they were both there. If only I'd had a recorder. Those were some of the best stories ever.
I had so many great connections to the movie Rush. Guy Edwards, who pulled Niki Lauda out of the burning Ferrari in Germany, happened to be my manager. James Hunt's brother, who was played in the movie, Peter was my accountant. James Hunt presented me with the trophy when I won the Formula Ford Festival in England. It was called the Tribute to James. I was on the grid with him, started beside him at the British Grand Prix 2 years later, and then we went into television broadcasting at the same time. So I had such a great connection to the people that were depicted in the movie. What a great movie!
I was going to say, it was a great movie.
Yeah.
You know some of the facts behind it,
Yes.
though. Was it as equally as good?
It was as close to a documentary as I've ever seen come out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
It was that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably should have won some awards. Sadly, didn't get the play in Hollywood that I thought that it might.
Yeah, and Niki Lauda is even more arrogant than AJ Foyt.
Of course, he's not here to contest that.
Well, I'm glad he's not.
I'm going to embarrass Derek with this one quick story to show you what a good man he is overall. When he had just come to the United States and into the Indy cars, we'd become pretty close friends. It looks like we got Felipe into the pits and spun that baby around right on the pit road. He didn't hit anybody or anything, but
just a practice spin.
Yep. Let's see what this. How's this
on
work
pit
here?
road.
See how my team will manage this if I happen to do this in the race.
So it's back at a time my daughter, who's in her 30s now, was 4 years old, and there was a daddy-daughter dance, and I couldn't take her. So I asked Derek, and he took her to that event, daddy-daughter dance. That was just, here's a great Formula One driver coming over here, and he's willing to do that. I've always appreciated that.
See.
We're all in this together is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So Simon Pagenaud has now eclipsed the time of Will Power. He's moved into the 1.7s, obviously, in doing that. 1:07.69 is his time. Looking down through the field, though, Castroneves, third place, starts the 1 minute 8 second range, and that range runs all the way down to Takuma Sato in 17th. A couple of guys were down mired in numbers that you wouldn't expect for them. One of them would be Marco Andretti.
Well, and Tony Kanaan still struggling from this morning's practice session. TK always kind of struggles at Barber Motorsports Park. He's sitting 15th quick thus far with just under 14 minutes remaining here in this practice session. Back to the dinner you guys had. Who picked up the check?
IndyCar.
Was it?
Yeah,
It
it certainly
may well
wasn't
have been.
me, and I know it wasn't him.
Certainly wasn't me.
That was a good time. Derek Daly, congratulations on Connor having a ride for the Indy 500. Thanks for coming up and spending time in the booth with us to talk about it.
Thank you, guys. How many years is it since we worked together?
Oh, my
Must
goodness.
be 15, maybe.
Yeah, at least that.
Yeah. I had hair back then.
Yeah, well, I did too.
Paul did too.
So thanks very much
Okay,
for
guys,
spending time.
you do
in
a
the
great
booth with
job.
us.
Thank you.
Derek Daly. We'll be back with the final moments of this session after this.
If there's one thing Firestone's learned over its 100 years in racing, it's that if you don't keep moving forward, you're going to get left behind. So even though Firestone has more Indy 500 wins than any other tire on the planet, we're always more concerned with what we've done for you lately. That's why we're constantly trying to make our tires stronger, last longer, and handle better than ever. And we bring that same commitment to every tire we make, whether it's for the racetrack or for the open road. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Barber Motorsports Park, that's the place, one of the most beautiful natural terrain road circuits in the world. Didn't start out to be that way. It was originally just to be an adjunct to the museum, which is without question, the finest motorcycle museum you will ever find. But
it's beautiful.
Of course, Mr. Barber has also added in four-wheelers, and including there's a Surtees Ferrari over there that it's just to die for. But you're in the area, you definitely have to.
I saw a couple Lotuses over there. It's spectacular. And the way they've manicured this entire facility is spectacular. And there's even some car corrals on the other side of the track. If you've got a BMW, you got a Ferrari. Mm-hmm. I noticed we didn't drive in with Ferraris this morning.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
We came in with rental car 1.
Mercedes, it's a spectacular weekend, and it's going to be beautiful. Weather-wise, tomorrow looks like it's going to be gorgeous, so we hope you'll, if you're here in the Alabama area, hope you join us tomorrow for the 4th stop in the Verizon IndyCar Series Tour.
And don't forget, on this day, there's yet a great deal to go. The Indy Lights are out there, 3:50 Eastern Time, and Mark James, Davey Hamilton, Jake Query, and Nick Yeoman will be on hand with Rob Howden and you, Dave First, down in the pits for that race.
Look forward to that. We're got our fingers crossed. No rain. Hopefully the rain holds off, so it's going to be spectacular here this afternoon.
And then at 3:50, that's local time, 4:50 in the east, it'll be the qualifying for the Indy cars. And it looks like it might come right on the edge of some more potential moisture coming through the area, but it doesn't look like it's going to affect it all that much. Guy moved over from Andretti to Penske this year and has settled well right into Penske is Kyle Moyer. Right now he is with Nick.
And his driver, Simon Pagenaud, currently at the top of the chart. Simon, happy with that car, Kyle?
We're okay with it right now. We're not happy. We're never going to be happy unless we can get a pole. All of our teammates have had one this year, so it's time for us to get one. Will and Helio look really good, and Juan now all of a sudden is recovered from the first practice session, so he's on pace. So, it's going to be a good shootout for qualifying. It's just we got to get the job done.
How much faster do you think the pace is going to pick up in qualifying when they put on those alternate reds later this afternoon?
Oh, it's definitely going to be a big track record here, especially when we put the reds on. I see us gaining another second or two.
I'd appreciate it. Kyle Moyer's driver, Simon Pagenaud at the top of the charts. But, Paul, you got to love that. He's a company guy. Top 3 all-team Penske with Pagenaud, Power, and Helio pacing the field.
And we'll look down the list. Montoya, though, is sitting down in 9th place. But now we've got a number of cars, 5 exactly, into the 1 minute and 7 second range. It's led by Simon Pagenaud. He's a 1:07.69. But now Power, Castroneves, Bourdais, Newgarden, and his teammate Felipe. That's where it splits. Newgarden's a 1:07.95, and Felipe is a 1:08.03. And then we're in the 1:08 category, well down into this field. Once again, speaking of the closeness of the competition.
Well, yeah, and to further that story, you've got Chevys running 1 through 7 right now. The top Honda of James Hinchcliffe, who won at NOLA a couple of weeks ago, New Orleans Motorsports Park. He is sitting 8th quick right now. And Montoya just jumped up that last time by, Paul Page. Montoya now into the top 10. He is 9th quick at a minute 8.71 that last time around.
So with this session now moving slowly to the end, there's 9 minutes to go in this session, but we're seeing the typical end of the session. Let's find out what we have in the car because it's qualifying that's next. We need to get this car set for that qualifying right now. We need to make sure we have the quick setting on it.
Yeah, so many things to check here, and Nick mentioned the alternate red tires, which these guys traditionally, Paul, they do not run in practice just because there's only a couple of sets. You've got to save some for the race coming up tomorrow. And so they're going to, scrub a couple of tenths when they do that. The alternate tires has more grip. These cars will go just a tick faster, and that's why you'll see this afternoon, weather permitting, of course, these times will shave off a little bit more. That time by, how about this? Will Power now. Will Power quickest this afternoon, a minute 7.29. So Will Power, the 2-time champion, is quickest right now as we have a spin. Paul Page looks
Felipe
like
again. We're going to go red. Felipe got off the edge of the course, so he's had more than a rough day out here.
He spun once on pit road, leaving his pit stall, over-revved it back in, came around to the right side, and then he stalled the machine. And now he is stranded out on the race course as red flag is out. Red flag is out with about 7.5 minutes remaining in this practice session, looking at a replay, and this car just spun around.
Back in, got away from him.
Exactly.
But they should be able to restart that quickly. He actually rolled backwards off onto the grass. And so the Hamaltra safety team ought to be able to get him restarted. on their way. If you're watching the video, there just was a great shot up on the screen, slow motion of Simon Pagenaud earlier, where he's going over one of the curbs, and he probably has that left front wheel, the one that went over the curbs, 8-10 inches in the air.
he was up there, but it was also interesting to see the aerodynamics, all the wings and whatnot. They really shake.
They flap and move.
They flap and move around, absolutely, when they go through rough portions of the curbs and whatnot like that. So looks like the Homatro safety crew is now reached Luca Filippi and is attending. It looks like they're going to restart the number 20 machine for Ed Carpenter and Sarah Fisher, Hartman Racing as well. So we expect to see Filippi back on pit road very soon to get things back under green flag conditions and wrap up this practice session here this afternoon.
Yeah, if they get that started right away and he hot foots it around, we'll still have maybe 5 minutes of time left to go in the session. He fortunately didn't spray anything onto the track, so there is not a cleanup involved here. It's just to get him fired up and going once again. They seem to be having a little issue trying to get the starter motor in. Oh, I see what it is. It's on a downhill. He's got to get neutral to get that motor in, starter motor to fire up. So one of the Homaltro guys is standing at the right front wheel, kind of holding on to the car until the engine actually fires. I'm not so sure I'd do that, but it's okay. Let's go to Jay Query.
Taking a look at Sebastian Bourdais and that number 11 Mystic Electronic Cigarettes hydroxy cut machine. They feel pretty good about it. He finished 6th in Long Beach. They felt like they've been battling a balance issue with that number 11 car, but Bourdais was very open about the fact that he thought at this track they might be able to reel that in. They now feel they're at the point, in particular once they go to the red tire setups, that they're going to be on point, and he feels very confident heading into qualifying. Keep in mind also, when they came here and tested, it was about 15, 20 degrees warmer than it is right now. So they factored that in a little bit in trying to find the balance of the race car. A little bit loose right now, but they feel like the red tires are going to take care of that. So I think Bourdais is going to be one to watch when we get into that Firestone Fast 6 and leading up to it in the qualifying session here in just a couple of hours. Question's going to be, of course, whether or not they're going to be able to cash in and go out on those red tires that they feel are the missing piece to getting that car totally dialed in, or whether or not it's going to be a wet condition. Either way, Bourdais does feel like, as we now get set to go back to green here for the last few minutes of this session, Bourdais does feel like they have now examined all avenues and will have that car right where he wants it and the sweetest setup possible for the race setup. Just as I said it, Bourdais goes out along with Marco Andretti. Behind him, Sage Karam, Carlos Munoz, Charlie Kimball, all going back out onto this track.
Yeah, fortunately, I was up in the turn 14 area where Felipe spun it around, didn't put anything on the track, but the restart of the engine became a little more complicated than I think they expected, in part, I believe, because it was on a downhill section, but fortunately, right there was the pit entrance. As soon as he got it started, he came into the pits. The official said, as soon as his wheels stop, we'll go green, and so we are green. Once again, the number they're chasing is Will Power, who's down at a 1:07.29. Track record here again is 1:06.775. If they're practicing at that, I guess we need to keep a close eye on that number when we come into the qualifying and they get the reds on. The track record may be in jeopardy.
Yeah, it seems like every stop this year, obviously with the new aero kits and whatnot, these track records are certainly falling as they have in previous weeks here for the Verizon IndyCar Series. And a quick rundown of the top 10 right now with, again, 4 minutes remaining in this practice session. It goes Power, Pagenaud, Jake Query just talking about Sebastian Bourdais. He's third quick, followed by Elio Castroneves, Joseph Newgarden. Now, how about a call for the 67 guys? They're in the top 5 right now, followed by Filippi, Dixon, Hinchcliffe, Montoya, Ryan Hunter-Ray. They're the top 10.
And, of course, the track record was held by Scott Dixon, who, you know, notched another record when he went into 5th place all-time on the win list at Long Beach a week ago. I don't think that he got quite the accolades for that at the time out of the media that he really deserved, because that's a pretty huge deal.
Well, you think of the guys, well, first, two things. First, let's think of the guy he just surpassed, and Bobby Unser.
Uncle Bobby.
Uncle Bobby. Yes, honey. But I love what Bobby immediately came out and issued a statement congratulating Scott Dixon and calling him really one of the great drivers all time in open wheel. And then the guys in front of him, we've got AJ, Mario, Michael. Who else am I missing here? There's a fourth, isn't there?
Good luck with that. I don't have my chart in front of me.
Oh, Al Unser. Al Sr.
Al,
yeah. And so That's pretty heady company right there that a guy that Scott Dixon is approaching, and he'll be able to pass Al Unser, I believe.
So. Oh, because he's got plenty of time racing.
He's got
left.
time,
He
absolutely.
looks like he's anywhere near the end of his career. 2 minutes to go in this session right now, and then Indy Lights will be out to run their race, and then the Indy cars will qualify. Right now, the top 7 positions are occupied by Chevrolet, and then Hinchcliffe in his Honda, that's 8th, and then another Chevrolet, and then we get another Honda. So Chevrolet pretty dominant here on this road circuit. They've been that way fairly dominant since the start of the season.
Well, absolutely. They're the guys to chase, the bow tie brand. There's no doubt about that. Further down in the field, we have not mentioned Tony Kanaan much in this practice session. Kanaan continues to struggle out here in this 2.3 mile, 17 turn layout. Kanaan at a minute and a minute 8.7 actually has the exact same time as Jack Hawksworth. So it's Kanaan in a tie for 15th right now. His other 2 teammates, Charlie Kimball sitting 12th. Sage Karam, much better effort and result here thus far this afternoon. Karam is 11th quick. Just as I say that, though, Tony Kanaan, the last time around, bumped his time up a little bit. So Kanaan now, TK, sitting 12th quick at a minute 8.32.
And Karam right there with him, just ahead of him in 11th.
Yeah.
It's the Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama. It's tomorrow afternoon. It will be a 90-lap event. That is 207 miles. And we will be on the air with it tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. The whole team on board for that one. And it always turns out to be something very special. Last year, it was special only in that it rained cats and dogs. We started late, but Ryan Hunter-Reay came through with the win. And the teams that can stand up to all that and still succeed, that's the trick.
Worth the wait, if you ask Ryan Hunter-Reay about last year's race here at Barber Motorsports Park. And now all of a sudden, he's won 2 straight here. And there's that little thing, too. He's also the reigning Indy 500 champion. Ryan, I think, would like a nice points race, a nice points position here this weekend as they head towards the month of May. And Hunter-Reay, of course, along with the Andretti Autosport guys, have all got the Honda power as well. So that's something else to consider this weekend as checkered flag is about to come out, Paul Page.
And what a great segue you created. The checkered flag is out. They'll head for the pits. Next time the Verizon Indy cars will be out there, it will be shod with those Firestone Firehawk, what we call reds, the alternate tire. And since you mentioned points, Juan Montoya is the points leader by 3 points over Helio Castroneves, and then TK sits in 3rd place in the points right now, and he is followed by Dixon. So points fight's still pretty tight there as well.
Yeah, it's still early in the season, but I guarantee you some of these guys are looking at the point standings as well. Kanaan, by the way, moved up a little bit the last time by as well to minute 8.12. So TK all of a sudden perhaps finding something late in this practice session as they look ahead. Towards qualifying. And yeah, as we've talked throughout the course of this practice session, the Honda guys, let's see, the top Honda, James Hinchcliffe, 7th quick right now, 1 through 6. Power, Castroneves, Dixon, Pagano, Bourdais, Newgarden, Chevy has the top 6 spots.
So the session is now complete. We'll run down through the order one more time for you, let you know who is where in this field. Number 1, of course, is Will Power, a 1:07.29. He is followed by Castroneves, Dixon, Pagano, Bourdais. That's through 5. Then comes Newgarden, and he is 6th. He is the last in the 1:07 range. Hinchcliffe begins the 1:08s at 8th, followed by Kanaan, Montoya, Hunter-Reay, Karam, Kimball, Rahal, and Coletti. That's through 15. We're still in the 1:08 range. Then comes Marco Andretti, Sato, Hawksworth, Munoz, Chavez, and that ends the 1:08 range. So all those guys are crammed in there in the same second. Then comes Gonzalez and Dracone as the last 2 in this 23-car field that will qualify here in a couple of hours.
Rodolfo Gonzalez in the 18 this weekend for Dale Coyne Racing, a 28-year-old man from Caracas, Venezuela. Of course, he takes over the 18 for the aforementioned Connor Daly, who we talked about, did a great job. Rodolfo Gonzalez. This first foray into the Verizon IndyCar Series. Had a test over the offseason with both Dale Coyne Racing and Schmidt-Peterson Racing. So we welcome Rodolfo Gonzalez here to the IndyCar Series this weekend.
What it must be like to be facing your very first IndyCar race. I mean, you work, as Derek Daly told us, you work so hard your entire life just to get to this position, and now he's there. I mean, he's got to feel awfully good about himself despite being down at 22nd, which may be a smart place for him to be, as we said with Connor Daly last week.
You got to work into it, right?
Exactly.
Slowly
Got to find out what that machine
Sure.
will do. All right, Indy Lights will be up at 3:50 Eastern Time. IndyCar qualifying at 4:50 Eastern Time. We've given the order. We've talked to a few of the stories that are working this weekend, probably most notably the short period of time that the teams have to prepare the cars with the new aero kits. Fortunately, they did have the opportunity with those aero kits back when they had the test here at Barber earlier this year, but still, this is a very busy afternoon for the Verizon Indy cars. So next time we'll talk to you with the Verizon Indy cars is when we go qualifying at 4:50 Eastern Time this afternoon. I'm Paul Page for Dave First, Nick Yeoman, and Jake Query. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in a little while.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
A.J. Foyt down the main straightaway. The checkered flag is out. A.J.'s hand in the air. He is the winner. A.J. Foyt at Indianapolis has won his fourth 500-mile race. A.J. Foyt, our winner. The flag will fly now for Tom Sneva and then for Al Unser. We will be talking with all of these drivers in just a moment.
And we await A.J. Foyt along with a host of others, including Tony Holman, who is cheering as loudly as the crowd. We've seen what has never been seen before, beginning with a woman driving in the field in the morning, and A.J. finishing 4 up front at Indianapolis. Headed into victory lane now, A.J. Foyt, the gleaming Gilmore 14 Coyote, the Gilmore Racing Team, home, and he wins again.
And there's the checkered flag for Mark Donahue, winner of the 1972 Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Oh my goodness, we have 7, 8, 10 cars in a pack headed for one Jerry.
Well, you talk about the crowd getting on their feet. They do. So far, so good. They are nose to tail. A little bit of room. There's about an 8-car pack in front of Gary Lee right now.
Yeah, and in that pack, second place and third place. Little Al has gotten around Jack Villeneuve. He's back up to second, and now 2 cars separate second and third. Mr. Excitement is that youngster, that second-generation driver. We're impressed with Jack Villeneuve, but right now he's dropped to third.
And there's Al Unser Jr. and then Bobby Rahal. Jack Villeneuve goes on the outside. He goes side. You can't go too wide in the turns. They're doing it today.
They sure are coming through 4. Now they go single file. Maybe they got a little scared last time. Who knows? But going through 4 this time, everybody single. They come toward the main straightaway. Bob Jenkins.
That was just a breathtaking moment.
This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
You know, Ricardo Juncos came up to the U.S. and started a karting team down in Florida, and from there he moved into the Pro Mazda ranks, and he won a championship there with Connor Daly, and now he's gone up to the Indy Lights ranks, and I know Davey can talk a little bit about this, but Spencer's engineer this year is Ernie Ganella, and that's who he worked with last year in Pro Mazda, and that I know that has provided him with a lot more confidence, and I know maybe Davey can talk a little more about that.
Yeah, without a doubt. When you have that connection and familiar faces, even though you're in a different series, it makes such a big difference. And I actually sold my Indy Lights team. Doc Wagner and I sold our Indy Lights team to Junko, so it's good to see him be able to take it to the next level and get a win. But you're right, man. When you have that familiar face, somebody that can read you got the same language, you speak the same language, and man, hopefully this keeps going for these guys.
Pickett, Harvey, Enerson, Jones, Chilton, Sorrellis,
Pedrahita, Kaiser, Blackstock, and Ringel. And Davey, other than that dust-up we had between Anderson and Rahal in turn number 1 on the first lap, we saw Sorrellis, I believe, get wide exiting a turn. This is a tough nut to crack and a pretty impressive debut here for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, no, they're doing a good job. I think we have all rookies but 2, so we got 10 rookies in this field, and so for them guys to hold it together on a new racetrack like this, and it's really cool. Connor Daly down there congratulating him in Victory Circle. That's cool, and it's a good experience for these guys, and I'll tell you what, they're really good.
Nick, no question, a guy like Spencer Piggott checked out on this field very early on, but still some awfully competitive racing back in the field.
And, Mark, we kind of wondered who was going to be the first woodsman to take a shot and take a swing with that axe at that Carlin Redwood that has been so tough to beat over the first 3 races, and not a lot of surprise because Spencer Piggott absolutely put him on it this week.
You know, Nick, you'd mentioned that about Spencer Piggott. I'll tell you 2 of the things that are interesting to watch here. Number 1, I think those Cooper tires that these cars have are just such a good fit that what we're seeing now is I think these guys are waiting for the tires to go away, and they're just not doing it. Of course, they're not getting into an hour and a half long races. That might have something to do with it, but those tires are very, very good. Spencer Piggott was very clean throughout the course of this race, with the exception of one slight bobble between 8 and 9 late in the race, which was not a huge issue. That was a very impressive situation. Be interesting to see how, of course, remaining dry, we assume the Firestone Firehawk slicks will be performing for the Verizon IndyCar Series as they're qualifying. Stick with us. We'll be coming up here just over about 15 minutes or so from now. In the meantime, let's go down to pit road and Rob Howden.
Down here in Victory Lane with Spencer Piggott. We've done this before in karting, USF 2000 Pro Mazda, and you are now an Indy Lights race winner. That's got to feel pretty darn good.
Wow, yeah, feels great. I can't believe it. I mean, what a car we had today. Juncos Racing guys were phenomenal all weekend, and, you know, we just kept putting my head down, and I can't believe the size of the gap we had at the end. The car was just amazing throughout the whole race, and huge thanks to the guys, Mazda, Market, Moby, Rising Star Racing, the Stutz, Bad, California Sense, everyone that's helping me. There's so many people that go into this, and yeah, I couldn't be prouder.
You've won a lot of races. What were those last 5 laps feeling like?
They're feeling really good. I mean, you know, it's great when there's no pressure behind you. They also seem to take a bit longer than usual, and just tried to stay on the track and just hit my marks. And again, the car was awesome throughout the whole race. We were doing the same times the whole time, so it was really great to drive.
Yeah, consistent 14.5s the whole time. They were your competition were up into the low 15s. Your thoughts for tomorrow? Can the car get even any better?
You know, I think it can. I think we're the only team that saved a new set of tires for tomorrow, so I think that's you know, starting off on a bit of an advantage right there, and you know, hopefully we just get another good start and try and do the same again.
Hey, congratulations on your first win.
Thanks, Rob.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen, Spencer Piggott, the winner today in Indy Lights. Let's go over to pit lane with Dave First.
Yeah, here with Jack Harvey. Another second place finish, although it's a heck of a lot better than what happened to you at Long Beach a week ago. There's 2 ways you can look at this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think our speed's been good all season. Long Beach, we were quick in practice. We started on the pole. I was leading into turn 1 and got hit by another car, so not too much you can always do about that, but last year we were second in the championship and we lost it on second place finishes, so hopefully this year we're just getting as many seconds as we can, and then I mean ultimately we've come here to win, so still, I mean, you've got to be happy with the result, but you know, we came to win, so not totally happy.
The good news is it's a doubleheader. We do all this again tomorrow.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a great circuit. It's an absolute pleasure to drive here at Barber, so if we can get on the win, then everything will be perfect.
Jack Harvey comes home second. Rob Howden.
Standing here with a driver who is on the podium for the first time. He's a USF 2000 race winner, but now an Indy Lights podium finisher. R.C. Henderson, how do you feel? What a great run today.
Yeah, I mean, the team gave me a great car, and we were able to make the moves happen early. So then we were able to keep ourselves up ahead. And now that we accomplished this, coming off Long Beach with a 4th place, and to come here and do even better is definitely encouraging, and I just can't wait for tomorrow.
You know, when you come into a year and you're looking at gaining experience, you're not really worried about race wins or podiums. It's all about getting experience on the racetracks with the car, with the team. This kind of jumps things forward a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we sure didn't expect to be running this well, and to run this well in the first year and jumping Pro Mazda, it's definitely a big confidence booster, and that just gives me more motivation to go even further.
Hey, well done. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Another name to remember, folks, here in the Mazda Road to Indy. R.C. Enerson, P3 today in Indy Lights.
Harvey and Piggott on the podium spots just above him. Jones, Chilton, Sorrellis, Pedrahita, Kaiser, Blackstock, and Ringel. A couple of laps down, Anderson and Rahal. Steve Wittig, again, we'll invite you back during the season. Before we let you get out of here, again, let the folks know one more time where they can catch up to you on TracksideOnline.com.
At TracksideOnline.com or on Twitter at TracksideOnline. Or you can follow me personally on Twitter at Steve Wittick, and it's Wittich.
And if you want good info, I recommend you do that. We'll see you soon. Thanks again for your time. We appreciate it. Our congratulations go out to Spencer Piggott. Gets to victory lane for the first time. He will have an opportunity to sweep the weekend. Join us at 12:10 Central tomorrow, 1:10 Eastern for flag-to-flag coverage of race number 2 for the Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tire. We're far from done at about 10 minutes until the hour, depending on where you are. 3:50 Central, 4:50 Eastern. We'll have complete coverage of knockout qualifying and the Firestone Fast 6 with Paul Page, Davey Hamilton, and company. The director of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network is Wally Levitt. Indianapolis studio master control operations by Chris Pollock. Our on-site engineer is Rick Evans. Jake Query and Nick Yeoman were out on the course today. Dave First and Rob Howden, a great job as always on pit road. Want to thank Steve Wittig and Matt Brabham for their help in the pits. Our driver analyst is Davey Hamilton. I'm Mark Janes. Qualifying coming up soon for the Verizon IndyCar Series. I'm Mark Janes again. So long for now from Barber Motorsports Park.
Time to dig into the archives for another IndyCar flashback. A replay of a previously recorded broadcast on IndyCar Radio.
Off of turn number 1, the margin, Mark Janes, about 4 car lengths.
Yeah, it's grown a little bit since they came back through here the last time. Ryan Hunter-Reay not quite as wide, not quite as erratic through this turn 2 and 3 portion of the course. He stretches it out even more. He really punched the button coming up out of the hill.
So in turn number 5, Ryan Hunter-Reay, the distinctive yellow and white with all the red accents on the number 1 machine, carrying the number 1 as the defending series champion. The first time that we've seen a defending champ do that in quite some time. Heads to Jake Query. Jake?
And I got to tell you, A.J. Allmendinger got loose, and he almost made contact coming out of turn number 9. He avoided any sort of disaster, and just after he did so, Ryan Hunter-Reay and Scott Dixon, with the same distance as last time by, came through here.
Okay, so Ryan Hunter-Reay and Scott Dixon avoid any mishap there, and they'll climb the hill. And Davey, just 2 more times around after they will cross the line and complete 88 laps here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Yeah, and I'm watching it was a half a second the lap before. It's now 0.7 of a second. So Ryan Hunter-Reay definitely pulling away from Dixon, just barely, but doing it.
Less than 2 remaining. Mark Janes, as they head to you.
Looking for career win number 8, Ryan Hunter-Reay. It would be his 21st top 5, his 48th top 10 for the 2007 Series Rookie of the Year. And Mike King, he's never been in the top 10 here at Barber.
Andretti Autosport won the pole into the Penske run, and it was Ryan Hunter-Reay who put the number 1 car on the inside of the front row to earn the Verizon P1 award. Right now, less than 2 laps away, Jake Query, as he heads to turn number 8 in the downhill run to you and 9.
So many times over the last year, Ryan Hunter-Reay seems to have put some sort of new chapter behind him, or an old chapter behind him, and move forward. That includes Barber. Mark, you mentioned it. His best finish here is 12th. But right now, Ryan Hunter-Reay is well on his way towards his best finish of a first and getting his first win, Mike, in Alabama.
Well, as we mentioned, he ended the Penske pole streak here yesterday, and now he has a chance to end the Penske win streak here. Only Roger Penske and Team Penske has sent cars to victory lane here, but the white flag will fly over the yellow and white DHL Sundrop car. Mark James, car number 1, heads to you out in front.
And he chose the car number 1 as the defending series champion. He hopes to make one more trip around the picturesque course here at Barber Motorsports Park. Ryan Hunter-Reay on his way to victory lane with Scott Dixon in pursuit. For the 4th time, Dixie would be the bridesmaid here at Barber.
Ryan Hunter-Reay working on about a 6-car length lead off of turn number 5 through the kink in 6. Now he'll accelerate in that straightaway portion that's going to lead him to 8 downhill. He comes to you, Jake Query, for the final time. Here comes first and second place to turn number 9.
Car number 1 with car number 9 closing in. Add the two together, and what do you get? The number of 10, as in what number career victory in the Eyes on IndyCar Series Ryan Hunter-Reay could be closing in on. His last win, Baltimore, a year ago, and he's on his way in Birmingham, Alabama, Mike King.
Well, when you talk about chemistry, it sometimes is everything when it comes to a race car driver and the team that he drives for. And Davey, Andretti Autosport and Ryan Hunter-Reay, they have that chemistry.
And they do it. By the way, Andretti Autosport won the Indy Lights race today as well.
Here he comes across the line. Twin checkers will wave for Ryan Hunter-Reay as the defending series champ gets the win at Barber Motorsports Park, and he claims the Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama, finishing in front of Scott Dixon by 0.6 of a second for Dixie. 4 consecutive runner-up finishes here, Nick Yeoman, on this great road course.
Yeah, what a celebration for the DHL Sundrop guys. We'll talk to Michael Andretti here in just a second. We'll grab the engineer, Ray Gosselin. Ray, congratulations. What a run by Ryan Hunter-Reay today.
Yeah, that was awesome. You know, he had a really tough spot there. We were stuck behind Will. He let Helio by, and, you know, he had to keep his composure to be able to come back after him at the end. Our reds against his blacks worked out just the way we wanted.
He ran out right
by
there.
Ryan.
I was going to say, what about that strategy to save that sticker set of reds until the very end of the race?
Yeah, we kind of had a feeling the reds might last a little bit longer today, so we wanted to, you know, make sure we had our chance to succeed if we were put in that position. And wow, sure enough, there it is right for us, and it worked out. You get lucky sometimes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Ray Gosselin will head to victory lane with Michael Andretti and everyone from Andretti Autosport. Our defending series champion, after a disastrous run at St. Pete, is going back to victory lane.
And Davey, talk about whoever uses the calculator to calculate that fuel mileage for the Verizon wireless car. Will Power took the checkered flag, finishing in 5th place, then ran out of fuel.
Right then.
Yeah, just a couple hundred yards later.
Yes,
Let's hear from Michael Andretti. Nick Yeoman, you've got the winning car owner.
Yeah, winning car owner for a second straight week. Boy, pole and victory in the Indy Lights Series, pole and victory in the Eyes on IndyCar Series. This is a perfect weekend, Michael Andretti.
I'll tell you, it really was. You know, it was great to get that win with Carlos this morning, and for Ryan to come back, and the whole DHL team. You know, they did a great job with strategy. And, you know, it was just, like you said, a perfect weekend. You know, when you start on the pole and you lead almost all the laps, that's the way you want to do it.
The strategy was perfect, but how about the pass on Helio Castroneves there going into Charlotte's Web?
Well, we knew we had to get it done because we had the reds and Helio had the blacks, and that's how Helio was able to get us. So we had to try to return the favor.
Go celebrate. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
That is Michael Andretti headed to victory lane. Ryan Hunter-Reay headed there as well.
And Ryan Hunter-Reay will make a big move, plus 15 spots up the points chart, and Ryan Hunter-Reay will go back to Long Beach now, trailing in the championship by just 13 points, Davey, and he goes from 18th to 3rd with this win.
Pretty amazing on how much you gain, and you see that a lot of guys had good days and bads, as you said. Ryan Hunter-Reay gains 15, and then you can look on down for the next one. Simon Pagano gained 10 also, but then you got the minuses. Where's the minuses? 6, 7 for Newgarden also up 7 positions.
Charlie Kimball plus 6.
But you got the -4 of Hinchcliffe, unfortunately, right? I mean, that winning and then go to dead last. So -6 for, you know, a few guys on down back, like Ed Carpenter. He had a good run in St. Pete and not so good here.
Yep, so it's Ryan Hunter-Reay, the race winner. He'll make his way to victory lane. Scott Dixon winds up.
You've been listening to an IndyCar flashback on IndyCar Radio. Now, back to live coverage of today's events. From the Firestone broadcast booth, it's time for the Verizon IndyCar Series on the Advance Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network.
Well, we welcome you once again to Barber Motorsports Park as the Verizon IndyCars are ready for their knockout qualifying. That's 2 groups. Out of the first group, the first 2 groups, you take 6 cars. That gets you the Fast 12. Then you take 6 out of that. That gets you the Fast 6, and that eventually produces the pole sitter and the order for the top 6 qualifiers in the field. Group number 1 is the cars are already out on the racetrack. Group number 1 is Castroneves, Pagano, Newgarden, Felipe, Montoya, Karam, Rahal, Marco Andretti, Jack Hawksworth, Gabby Chavez, and Rodolfo Gonzalez making his first appearance in the IndyCars. So Davey Hamilton is alongside as we look ahead to this. Any thoughts?
Well, thoughts are this is the first track we've been to, Paul, that has some elevation changes, and you can see a lot of the racetracks. And we're in a booth overlooking all of it. With these new aero kits, these cars have so much downforce that it's just amazing how deep they go into the corners. So, I mean, we have a 300, 200, and 100 yard markers on the course. They don't even pay attention to those. I mean, these guys could drive these things so deep with the downforce. It amazes me. So that's the biggest surprise I've seen.
So 100, get past that, then think about braking.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to kind of let you in on something that we do to get ready for every one of these races, every one of these sessions. With the announcers out on the racetrack, we all have to figure out exactly where we can see a car and when they can pick it up, where we can do the handoff. So that's what we're going to kind of do right now as we try to find one of the machines. And, well, let's just take, it looks like Felipe going into one. And I've got him into one and down into two. And then that should give me a shot into three, though I'm still waiting for the first appearance off at turn one and down here. And so Felipe was probably not the world's best choice. So now we'll try to pick up another car on the way through. We'll try to pick up Elio's, what I'd love to pick up when he comes here. We're, by the way, Elio Castroneves got one lap in at a 109.056. We're looking for a time in the 107 range, 107 very low, or even the top of the 106, and that'll bring us down pretty close to a track record. So Elio Castroneves just heads down through turn one and through turn two. Here he comes sweeping around to the right. That's turn three. Then it's a bit of an uphill as he continues that sweep right there. And now he comes across turn five right now. He should at that point come into the view of Mark James. He's still trying to find his position up on the top of the control tower building here, so maybe we'll wait a bit longer to show that. But let's go out to at least the backside of the race course and pick up with Jake Query.
Castroneves right now is at the apex of my view. Pagano just came into it. I am actually atop the Barber Motorsports Park Museum here, which houses on display 750 motorcycles and the world's largest collection of Lotus race cars. There are 1,400 motorcycles in the private collection, and just over half are on display here. But what I'm looking out now, Paul, is turn number 8 and turn number 9. For those of you for theater of the mind that are trying to gather exactly what it is that I'm looking at, just out in front of me at the very top of my view, the greenery here of Alabama. But in the middle of it, coming out throughout the trees, is that sweeping right-handed turn that is a turn number 8, and it essentially is a downward right-handed spiral that comes down to the lowest point in the course of this racetrack. Of course, this is a, depending on who you ask, 15, 16, 17 turn track. A couple of those turns are just slight kinks. One of them is that turn number 10, which is a right-handed turn. That actually is where they then exit my view. So I have a view here of a long sweeping right-handed turn, and at the bottom of that turn, 30 feet above the driver, there's a walk bridge that walks into the museum here, and it has about 12 foot by 12 foot glass panel where you can stand and look straight down into the cockpit. But you better look quickly, because those cars, when they're at maximum speed coming out of turn number 9, they're trying to get their speed back up, but even still, they're going through the gearbox trying to get back up into the 110, 120 range probably as they come out of turn number 9. That's an area where Elio Castroneves in the past has told me that it's hard for him to get through the gearbox once they find that straightaway area. All quiet in this area of the racetrack right now, sparing that one machine that Paul just now is at the bottom of that view. That is the car number 41 of Jack Hawksworth. Hawksworth now going just into that turn number 10, and just like that, that 41 on red tires goes out of my view.
Well, let's go down to the pit side right now. We'll get back to the corners in just a moment with Elio Castroneves being quick at a 1:08.095. Nick?
Yeah, and the three Penske cars that are in this session, all expected to compete for pole. Elio Castroneves, Simon Pagano, and Juan Montoya. All three were just on pit lane a good 15 to 20 seconds ago, Paul, all strapped on a set of brand new alternate Firestone Reds. So the three Penske cars in this session, the only one that's not is Will Power. We'll see him later in group number 2, but the Penske cars have been quick all weekend. Elio, Pagano, and Montoya back out on the racetrack.
And let's go to Dave.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting. Usually the guys that are in Group 2 usually like to hang out a little bit around the pit area and chat up the crew guys and chat up the media for that matter as well. But for some reason, it's been very serious about things heading into it. A lot of the guys are already inside the machines, including Will Power, Scott Dixon, two guys that are expected to compete for pole here this afternoon. Tony Kanai getting ready to get strapped into his number 10 machine as well. Some serious business down here on pit road. Paul Page.
Well, let's keep a track now of Simon Pagenaud, who is second quick in the order as he sweeps down into the left-hander that is turn 1, then immediately back to the right. That's turn 2, continues the sweep around turn 3, and then begins the climb up the hill and comes into the view about now, I'd say, of Jake Query.
Waiting on him now. I'll let you know exactly when I see it. As a matter of fact, Felipe comes in now, and now I wait. There goes Graham Rahal. They're at the top of the hill. They would be approaching turn number 8, do they? And now Pagenaud does it just then. There goes Pagenaud. Matter of fact, Simon Pagenaud in that 22 Penske truck rental machine had to get on his brakes just a little bit because I think that's Sage Karam in front of him that has yet to get up to speed. So Simon Pagenaud taking that right-handed turn now through turn number 10.
So as he heads for turn number 10, that's a big sweeper around to the right, and it's actually a complex that keeps going around to the right, and it eventually brings you to either the pit road entrance or it puts you back on the main straightaway and you have completed one lap. There are 7 minutes and 22 seconds into this session. Mark James.
We see Simon Pagenaud, Paul. He exits our view out of turn number 1. He's gliding through the Alabama roller coaster. The first couple of years, I had that vantage point high atop that hill where there are always a couple of thousand fans scattered. Just like that, he's back into my view. He's working his way through that 5-6 complex. He climbs on the binders. It's almost a hairpin-like left-handed turn. Now a bit of a straightaway, and it bends back down around through turn number 7. He starts to set up for that 8-9 complex, that canary yellow number 22 machine to Jake Query.
Already through 8. Pagenaud, as a matter of fact, at the bottom of the hill now through turn number 9 is that 22 of Simon Pagenaud. Same paint scheme, Paul, in which Al Unser won the 1987 Indy 500.
That's pretty cool as Pagenaud now heads for the far right side of the track, far to our right, and starts the complex 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. It's a 17-turn track, and on that lap, Simon Pagenaud ran a 1:07.198. He is now the quickest here as we run into the final 2 minutes of this session, actually under that at this point, 1 minute and 20 left to go in this session. We have, by the way, John Andretti has joined us in the booth, and we'll bring him on as soon as we get this session done because, John, we're getting into a point where it gets real serious. So the order is Pagenaud, Castroneves, Karam, Felipe, Rahal, and now the order changes. Graham Rahal is now number 6. Montoya is pushed out. He is number 7. Changes again. Pagenaud, Castroneves, Newgarden, Karam, Marco Andretti, and Felipe now are the top 6. It's Graham Rahal that's trying to get in here.
Yeah, and how about Juan Montoya? Not in the, he's down at the 8th spot right now. Gabby Chavez, he's fighting away. He has another good lap he can get in. And matter of fact, Sage Karam just in that 8th spot right now. Marco is on the 6th. He's on the bubble going,
Graham Rahal pushes him out.
Yeah.
So here in the final seconds now, we're in the final 30 seconds until we see the checkered flag on this run. And still the battle for that, really the bump spot, the 6th position, currently occupied by Graham Rahal, and Marco Andretti is trying to get in there, followed by Montoya, Chavez, Hawksworth, and Gonzalez. Those are the bottom 6. They take only the top 6 to transfer into the next aspect of this qualifying, which is the Fast 12. We have a second group that will come out here, and we'll take 6 out of those again, and then we'll fully develop the Fast 12 for us. Now the final session is complete. The checkered flag comes out, and the first group has completed their qualifying. Though we wait a moment or two, Davey, for them to run out on the course because you got the flag, you still have a chance.
Yeah, the checkered flag's out, but there's a timeline right before you come into pit lane, and that's where they do qualifying. Now, obviously, for the race, it's at the start-finish line, but there's a timeline, back before turn 14, and that's so everybody needs to cross that before and get their final time. And so we got quite a few guys on track yet. Matter of fact, Hawksworth, I think, will be the last guy to pass that timeline to see who makes it in and who doesn't.
Graham Rahal gets up to 5th on that last lap. Top 6, Pagenaud, Castroneves, Newgarden, Felipe, Rahal, and Karam. Marco and Montoya, 7th and 8th.
Impressive for Sage Karam. A few months ago, he came here for a test, right off the bat had a big shunt. Matter of fact, it destroyed a car coming off turns 14 and 15 and got in the guardrail. But he's back up to speed, looking good in that 6th spot right now.
So it looks to me like everybody is in now, and so it is officially Pagenaud, Castroneves, Newgarden, Felipe, Graham Rahal, and Sage Karam. Those are the ones that will advance. So Marco Andretti, Juan Montoya, Gabby Chavez, Jack Hawksworth, and Rodolfo Gonzalez, they'll all start toward the back of the field.
Yeah, how about Marco? He only missed it by 1/10. I mean, this field's very, very tight, man. He just barely missed it. But Montoya, a little bit of a surprise when the Penske car's not making it into that top 6.
So we mentioned that John Andretti is in the booth here with us, and you're looking at the other part of your family. Marco not doing that well, and he's kind of been struggling throughout this season.
Well, I think in testing, when they tested the Aero kits here, they kind of struggled to learn a little bit more about them. And the other part, too, is when Davey said it, I mean, if Marco's 1,300ths quicker, he's up to 4th. So, I mean, it's such a tight field, and in IndyCar racing, that's what it's supposed to be, right, because it's so competitive. So it's exciting. I mean, I think that when I heard Dave first, I believe, mention drivers weren't talking, they were in their cars. To me, I'm watching the weather, and the weather's coming. And so guys are trying to get out, I think, and get a banker lap, basically. And what I mean by that is get a lap in the bank, and that's why they go out on the blacks. Some guys don't do that, but you see the majority of them do it, and I think that's what they're probably most nervous about. They don't want to be the guy that somebody gets out on the dry and they get out on the wet.
John, you have driven, I'm guessing, like every race car on the planet, have you not?
If it has 4 wheels, yeah, I try to stay out. Yeah, 2 wheels, I crash a lot. So
my absolute favorite, though, is you're running a Top Fuel Dragster. That was pretty cool. They're still talking about you over there.
Well, I can tell you I enjoy it because racing in all the series like IndyCar, NASCAR, NHRA, they're so professional, and to get the opportunity to race in any one of those is obviously an honor. To get to race in every one of them is a blessing.
Well, let's go down to the pits and find out what Marco Andretti's story was, Dave.
Yeah, well, from one Andretti to another, Marco Andretti here, the odd man out. Obviously, you didn't get exactly what you wanted out of the qualifying session. What happened?
I mean, I was pretty close to having the car wrung out, but yeah, just struggling with understeer. You know, I don't really have an answer or a clear picture right now. You know, it's kind of frustrating. So it's one of my worst starting positions here. I think 13th, so that's not ideal.
We've seen a lot of guys chasing it, if you will, this weekend. Why is that, you think?
Well, I mean, you know, the elephant in the room is the aero kits, and that's the only new thing that everybody has to deal with this year. So, you know, we're all trying to find the sweet spot, and, you know, I don't think we have yet.
What do you have for tomorrow, you think, Marco?
I don't know. We always have decent race cars here, but we have to see, you know, we've been on new tires all day today, so we need to see where the degradation goes.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Marco Andretti, he will roll off 13th here tomorrow.
Yeah, that's got to be disappointing for him. Let me give you the cars in Group 2 as we're now a minute away from their roll-off. It'll be Power, Dixon, Sebastian Bourdais, James Hinchcliffe, Tony Kanaan, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Charlie Kimball, Stefano Coletti, and Takuma Sato, Carlos Munoz, James Jakes, and Francesco Draconi. So there are 12 cars in this group. There were 11 in the other, but still, you only take the top 6.
That's it. And you got to remember, too, you know, as Marco said, these aero kits, every track we go to are a little different. This is a super fast road course. So the aero kit's a whole different balance, a whole different, you know, learning curve for all these teams. But, you know, it seems that Chevrolet does have a bit of an advantage, and it's, you know, pretty obvious because they're, I think right now, out of the top 6 right now, I think all of them but one, which would be Graham Rahal, is Chevrolet. So kind of tells you that it's maybe just a little bit, you know, weighted a little bit heavy on the Chevrolets right now.
As we wait for the green flag to come out, and there it is right now, the second group in round number 1 of qualifying is taking to the track. And you mentioned the concern about the rain, the possibility. Well, it's more of a probability. It's just a matter now of when it actually arrives here. I'm looking at a couple possibilities. It looks like maybe 30 minutes away. Now, if they hustle, maybe they can get it in.
Well, that's one thing. Yeah, well, John's phone doesn't look that good. It looks like it's raining right now, but it's actually dry. But, you know, one thing, it could be raining on one side of the course and not the other. So these guys are trying to get their lap in, as John mentioned. You want to get a lap in underneath the dry just so it sticks, and you got a good number up there. But one thing we just talked about, Wally just mentioned that, we usually have some time in between sessions. I like the way they've sped it up and just go right from one group to the next. I think it's pretty impressive.
They did make one change. The officials did. They have now decided that if you cause a local yellow and therefore impeding somebody around you, you're going to get your fastest lap. Not the fastest two, like if you create a red, but the fastest lap taken away from you if you create that yellow. John Andretti, how do you like this format? It's pretty cool, isn't it?
I like it. I certainly like it more as a spectator than I would as a driver because, it's pretty pressure-packed, and as drivers, there's enough pressure. I mean, when you really hang it out for a qualifying lap, you really do hang it out, and to have to do it 3 times is a lot to ask a driver, especially when you start doing it on, non-sticker tires, used tires.
If you think of how fast this goes, I mean, we're already a minute and a half into this session. The guys are around completing that first lap. The countdown clock is counting down, and of course, we watch the sky, we watch the track, we watch the times. They're all something that is important right now, especially looking up at the sky, Davey.
Oh, for sure. I think we're going to be okay. I mean, the way the clouds are moving, it looks lighter than darker. So hopefully they can get this next 10 minutes in and then get into Group 3 actually, which would be the fastest 12, and then just kind of keep narrowing it down. But a little rain always is exciting. Maybe you have to put some rain tires on these things and do the final round in the rain.
Well, the guy that is the man to watch in this session is Scott Dixon, and they're watching him right now. Scott Dixon, his fast time, 1 lap, though, is a 1:09.188. He comes down the front straightaway right now. He sets up moving way to the right and sweeps into turn number 1. We'll try to get him all the way around this track as he goes through 2. And it's an up and down section at this point. It is running downhill for him. And now he completes 3, and he completes 4, and that'll bring him on to a short straightaway.
He pops into our view with Coca-Cola sponsorship on the side of that machine, climbs on the binders and makes that left-handed turn through that complex. It's essentially a straightaway, if you will. He carries plenty of speed before he comes into the view of Jake Query.
And a bridesmaid many a time is Scott Dixon, already now through turn number 9. That red and white target machine that is so familiar just has Coca-Cola on the side, and now it's already through turn number 10.
And so through turn number 10, as he works down what is the backside of this race course, heads that is a run that is a very short run to an open straightaway. Down that straightaway then, and it's turn 12 that lies next ahead for him. He sweeps in there, and then he starts the series of right-handers that brings him along a complex at the one end of the track and will bring him eventually onto the main straightaway. So completing that run now and coming toward the main straightaway, that is Scott Dixon. So we keep an eye on Dixon, though. Here's a piece of information for you. Charlie Kimball is now quick, a 1:07.867. We have 5 minutes and 49 seconds to go in this session.
You got to remember, a 1:07.8 wouldn't have put him in the top 6 in the first group either, Paul. So we're going to see the times drop drastically right here because they're just now getting fresh red tires on. Guys went out on blacks, mostly scuffed, and now they're cycling around and getting some fresh red. So Charlie's fast right now, but he could follow the top 6 really easy as well.
The top 6 as we approach the halfway point of this session. Scott Dixon, Charlie Kimball just got pushed down out of the number 1 by Dixon, then Sebastian Bourdais, Will Power, Ryan Hunter-Ray, and James Jake. Those that are below the line, Takuma Sato, Tony Kanaan, James Hinchcliffe, the winner at New Orleans, and Carlos Munoz, Stefano Coletti, and Francesco Draconi. But very shortly here, with now right at the halfway point being reached. 5 minutes to go in this session, and it's going to start getting tense. Well, and it always gets tense on the last lap.
Scott Dixon's P1 right now on used black tires. He hasn't even been, he just now pulled in to put his reds on. So if he's already P1 on the blacks, yeah, watch out, yeah.
Is there any strategy you think at play there, John?
Well, yeah, I think that, for them, they want to save as many reds as they can, obviously, because if you make the Firestone Fast 6, you burn an extra set of reds, and sometimes it's better to start 7th than it is to start 5th or 6th because you save that extra set of Firestone reds. So to be able to run that quickly on that, I'd say that he's going to probably be in the 6s, 106 range if he goes on reds.
And here he goes. He just pulled out on the reds right now.
And we look at the postings that we get from IndyCar, and now they're reporting Scott Dixon going over to Reds. That will leave maybe Ryan Hunter-Reay as the only guy who is not. He's in the pits. They have the Reds on his car right now, and they're going to start that thing and push him back into the action as well. So then you'll have everybody in this 12-car field on the red tires. Let's go to Nick. You have Juan Montoya.
Yeah, let's slide in here and try to grab a quick word from Juan Montoya. Certainly got to be disappointed missing the first round of qualifying. 3 straight podiums to start the season. How frustrating is this? What happened in that first round?
Nothing. Just couldn't put a good lap together. We struggle a little bit with the balance, and that's what it is. It's tough because you really get on these tires here. You get a lap, and I missed the lap. So,
what can you do? I mean, how daunting is it here at Barber? I mean, it's so tough to pass here to get yourself up to the front.
It's what it is. Our Huck Performance car has been pretty good, and we'll do the best we can.
All right, appreciate it. Juan Montoya, and certainly his work is going to be cut out for him if he wants to find his way to the podium, Paul, for the 4th straight week to start the season.
So Montoya's story. Now 3 minutes left to go in the session. It's Dixon, Kimball, Bourdais, Will Power, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and James Jakes. Everybody on Reds. Everybody now going as quick and hard as you can, and all of us are looking at the sky. It looks like there may be 25 minutes left to go before we see any rain in the area, but that can change. And so we pick up now on Scott Dixon as he comes over to you, Mark.
Yep, setting up for the 4-5 complex, climbs on the binder, starts to the high side of the racetrack, stays off the curbing to the bottom, right back into the throttle. The track straightens up a little bit. There's a bit of an elevation change there. Car doesn't bottom out, climbs on the binders now. Bit of a sweeping right-handed turn, and these guys really carry a lot of speed before they get back into the view of Jake Query.
Dixon, as a matter of fact, Mark, I get that into the view a while before that, because as soon as essentially they start, like Coletti just did, as soon as they start to make that, now I see the ABC car, for example, as soon as they come into that approach of turn number 8 to start down, they're already well within my view. And then as soon as they take that kink that's 10, right then is when they go out of it.
Will Power just went number 1, a 1:06.997. We're getting close to what is the established track record, which is a 1:06.755. There's 1 minute and 40 seconds left to go in this session. It gets more serious.
John nailed it. We thought we would see Dixon in the 106s, but Will Power, he snuck up in there and he's the first one down in those right now.
So it is James Hinchcliffe now who is 6th and on the bump. Sebastian Bourdais is 7th. So is Carlos Munoz and Ryan Hunter-Reay. They're all right together there trying to climb into this field with now under 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go. This is where in the first group of this qualifying, things changed drastically just in the last few minutes, but not necessarily at the top. It looks like Power and Dixon are pretty well established where they are.
And right now it's back to Chevrolets. I think what is it? The top 5. So let me see. We got 5 of the 6 are Honda. James Hinchcliffe
is 5th. He's the Honda. You bet.
There's Scott Dixon. There's that 106 we were looking for. Put him to the top of the charts. Barely beating out Will Power, but he's going to be a guy to contend with for sure.
So Dixon, Power, Bourdais, Kimball, Kanaan, and Hinchcliffe. We're counting down very shortly. We'll be in the final 30 seconds of this session, and then we will have the establishment of the Fast 12, which will come out as soon as they can make cars and track ready to go. Now to 26 seconds, 25, 24, Dixon, Power, Bourdais, Kimball, Kanaan, Hinchcliffe. Coletti is trying to get in. Out, Ryan Hunter-Reay and Takuma Sato. Surprises at them being out.
Yeah, really, Ryan Hunter-Reay especially. I mean, he's been running, so he's still out there, though. He's not giving up. The checker flag came out, but he won't make it around again by the start-finish line, so he needs to make this lap count before he crosses the timeline. Finds himself in that 9th position right now, and actually quite a ways off on the pace as well, so over a second, but we'll see what he can do. I think Kanaan, he's jumped himself. He's in 6th right now, trying to hang on to that top 6.
Ryan Hunter-Reay, the defending race champion and also the defending Indianapolis 500 champion, trying to get here, but boy, he's going to have to take a major step to do that. With the checkered flag having flown, it's Dixon, Power, Bourdais, Kimball, Hinchcliffe, and Kanaan. Those are your top 6. But there's still a chance for a couple of cars to come in, and we're just going to wait for that, and then once again they will re-prepare the machines, and then it'll be the Fast 12 that head out on the track. And it seems, Davey, like We only have, what, one car
Yeah, I think
left out there?
looks like we have the one car should be passing the line any time here. Ryan Hunter-Ray passed the line, does not slide in. Man, he's going to be down the ways too. He's not going to be happy with that one at all. Matter of fact, he's going to be starting the 18th starting spot for tomorrow's race.
So all the cars are in. Here are the top 6. Dixon, Power, Bourdais, Kemble, Hinchcliffe, and Tony Kanaan. We go out to the beautiful museum on this track, and Jake Query has a very special guest.
It is Barber Motorsports Park. That's because the man who I've been having the pleasure to talk with, and I was looking to make sure, and believe it or not, his thumbs are not green, but you would think they are because this facility is so fabulous and so beautiful. He is the namesake and the proprietor here. He is George Barber. Sir, first and foremost, thanks again for letting not only the Verizon IndyCar Series, but those of us on IndyCar Radio come back again and be able to enjoy your fantastic facility. It's great to be back.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. I'm delighted to have you here, and I'm excited to see you guys show up and enjoy the facility.
I think that first and foremost, the fan experience here is as good as anywhere that we're going to see. And it seems as though, my observation, every year, there's a new wrinkle. It seems as though you're always coming up with something new for the fans, not only who are camping, but are coming in day to day. Take me through some of the exciting new things you have going on.
Oh, my gosh, where do you start? We're building 2 new big storage buildings to accommodate Mercedes that are coming here. We're also building a classroom that's overlooking our new autocross track to help people get instructed for the use of that. Gosh, there are other little things around. We're doing a motocross track. We're doing a off-road course for about 5 miles to test these new SUVs that Mercedes has. So we're doing quite a bit. So next year there'll be a lot more for you to see.
You know, I wanted to ask you as well, this museum is so state-of-the-art. You have about 750 different motorcycles on display, if my numbers are correct. Those represent some of the 1,400 that you have in your private collection, the world's largest collection of Lotus race cars as well, privately owned. When did it all begin, and at what point did you think to yourself, you know what, I've got so many of these now, I might as well go ahead and display them?
Oh, gosh, it started some years ago, and I was fascinated with the engineering of these bikes, and it grew to maybe 50 or 100 bikes, and I thought, you know, with a little luck, I could put together the best collection of motorcycles in the world, have a hell of a lot of fun doing it, and it'll help this city and help this state to do that, and I've done that.
It is a beautiful area of the country. The people in Birmingham, I think, have a great pride about this facility in general. You see that in your volunteers. They are very knowledgeable and enthusiastic. But take me through some of the trees and just the different things that you have here that show the beauty not only of nature in this part of the country, but really countrywide, right?
Well, we have 800,000 bulbs in the ground, and they are quietly exploding now as we speak. If we just get a little more sunshine, they'll come out. We have 16,000 azaleas, 18,000 crepe myrtles, and then we try to get every breed of tree in the United States that will grow here so people can get the experience of the different trees and different things here.
How do you feel that the Verizon IndyCar Series and the coverage of this event has allowed not only the state of Alabama's name, you know, the obviously the exposure, but for your facility as well?
Oh, I think it's been fantastic. It's just been unreal to the people now that call and talk about it. Indy's put us on the map. The motorcycle collection is one thing, the Lotus collection is good, but when Indy comes, people understand what that is, and it's really put us on the map. This race has really done wonders for us.
It is one of the places that we circle on the calendar every year. It is always a pleasure to be here, Mr. Barber. We welcome you again, or we thank you again, for welcoming us with your hospitality, and it's always a pleasure seeing you.
Thank you very much. Glad you're here.
It is awesome to be here, no question about it. And guys, again, I'm up here on the museum, and I turn around and I think, well, you know what? Here's a gentleman, and I do mean gentleman, that's always good to talk with. Dave, first down to you on pit road.
Yep, Q2 qualifying about to get underway here. James Jakes, the odd man out, left over from Group 2 in the first qualifying session. He'll start 14th tomorrow. Tell us about your qualifying run there, James.
I mean, it was okay. We've been struggling a bit for pace all weekend. We're not really sure why, but, you know, the guys have made some great changes, and if we can find a bit more tomorrow, then we should be in good shape.
I was going to ask you about tomorrow. How optimistic are you that you may have something for these guys tomorrow afternoon?
Well, for the Hondas maybe, but for the other guys, I'm not sure about that. I think, you know, we'll try and finish quickest Honda or highest Honda, and then move on from there.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
James Jakes again. He'll start 14th. The quickest Honda in that last session, of course, James Jakes. Nick Yeoman.
All right, let's catch up with Ryan Hunter-Ray. He's a former winner here at Barber. I know you got to be disappointed. Was that last lap? Were you able to get a clean last lap in, or was somebody blocking you at all?
No, we just caught slower traffic there. I gave him a huge gap to begin with, knowing that he was way off the pace, and and just caught them over and over again.
This is Francisco, the 19 car at Draconi you're talking about?
Yeah, it's our own team's fault for putting us out there in that position, though.
I know I heard Marco Andretti say the elephant in the room is the Hondo Aero kits. I mean, how much of an uphill battle is it for this group so far this season?
It's tough for everybody. We're putting ourselves, we're all in the same boat, so we're all really trying hard to make it better. But I think really where you see the results is really what speaks loudest. We're just busy trying to work on it. But I love this racetrack, and it's a shame we're not getting around here quicker right now. But we'll be working hard, that's for sure.
All right, Ryan Hunter-Reay unofficially will start 18th tomorrow when we drop the green flag.
Yeah, some other guys there in the back as surprises. Juan Montoya will go off as 15th. Marco Andretti goes off 13th. So some heavyweights at the back of this field. John Andretti, I know you're here to watch, but you also got some other purposes here, right?
I do. Actually, in the fan zone for IndyCar fans, they know this is the centennial era at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 2011 was the 100th anniversary of the Speedway. Next year will be the 100th running, so during this time, Winterworld developed a car called the Stinger. It's actually in the Mika Mobile Experience in the fan zone here at Barber. You can go see it. It has the drivers' names of all the drivers that start the Indianapolis 500 that were alive as of 2011, and they've been signing it. We have 248 signatures on it, and next year it's going to go to auction at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and all the money is going to go to St. Jude. So thank you to Mika, and thank you to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and of course thank you to Winterworld for putting all that together.
That's a pretty cool deal. And John, thank you for joining us up here. It's nice to see you once again.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
You got it. Well, 7 minutes and 35 seconds left to go. Let's go up top. Mark, you've been looking at something.
You know, Paul, in central Indiana, especially in the summertime, the temperature goes up a little bit, the humidity goes up a little bit. Things start to cloud up some, and then all of a sudden, you start to notice that humidity drop. That air gets a certain coolness to it, and then it starts to get wet. We haven't gotten to the last part of that yet. I think it's in the area, but I've noticed a noticeable drop, if you will, in the level of humidity, and that wind has a bit of a cooler feel to it because of the fact that they expedited things just a little bit between sessions. I think it looks pretty good for us maybe being able to get this session in totally dry.
I agree with you, Mark. In fact, when we looked out the window here in the control tower earlier, it was very dark off to the south of this track, but it's lightened up quite a bit now, and that report also gives us some hope that we will not have any rain while the Indy cars are on the track. 6 minutes, 30 seconds to go in the session. Here's the way the top six line up. Dixon, Pagenaud, Castroneves, Sage Karam, Sebastian Bourdais, and Will Power, who moves into second place right now. Charlie Kimball and Luca Felipe, Graham Rahal, Tony Kanaan, they are all still on the outside looking in.
Well, and you look at out of the 12 cars, Paul, 10 of them are Chevrolet, so that kind of writing's on the wall, right? Honda has a little bit of work to do. They're not a long ways off. I mean, when you look at the times, they're still very, very close, but they still have just a little bit of work to do to get the speed up, at least on the road and street courses. We'll see what happens here next month at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the oval, but right now we'll see if we can get a Honda to pop into that top six.
A lot of the cars are coming in now to change tires. Sage Karam is the first one to go over onto the reds. Here comes Tony Kanaan. The Penske team for Helio Castroneves is laid out. So is the Joseph Newgarden group. They're all set to go, waiting for their car to arrive, and then the changes occur. Dixon, Karam, Pagenaud now, Power, Castroneves, Charlie Kimball. Sebastian Bourdais is the guy trying to get into the field. He's followed by Felipe, Kanaan, Rahal, Newgarden, and James Hinchcliffe. But still, only one car out there has time on the clock with the red, the alternate tires, the theoretically faster tires. Not theoretical, they're softer and they are faster. And Dixon just came in. He's changing as well. So now we're getting to that point with half of this session left to go, where we're going to see the speeds pick up, and we're going to see who has figured out exactly what they need to get this thing working.
Yeah, right now Scott Dixon, just soon it ends right now, and Sage Karam in first and second, but you're right. They're all putting sticker reds on right now, Paul, and this is where they lay down their times. Kanaan goes by us first, and it's the price of poker goes up right here in this session.
Dixon, Karam, Pagenaud, Power, Castroneves, Kimball. It stays that way. The quick time is a 1:07.779. So they're a good full second off of the track record set here by Scott Dixon some time ago. He actually set that record in 2013. John Andretti, still nervous about this thing?
Well, I mean, I'm less nervous because I'm up here.
Pretty easy up here watching it.
I don't have to deal with success or failure. But the thing that I do see when I go out in the circuit is Scott Dixon drives this racetrack so different than everybody else. The way he apexes the corners, especially turn 3, the way he does things, and yet it really works for him. Okay, but he's the one guy that's sort of different than everybody else, and maybe everybody ought to start going to that line.
Hey, Davey Hamilton, how often do you see that kind of thing where somebody is drastically different than
Well,
everybody else?
Scott's a special guy. I mean, obviously his record shows how many wins he's got, how competitive he is in championships, and he knows how to get it done. But every driver just has something a little bit different, that whether it's a line, whether it's the way they do their braking, or some guys like charging into the corner, some guys like not charging in so much and having a really good exit. So but Scott, you can tell around this track he has something a little special going on.
Scott Dixon working down toward 4 right now. Pick him up, Mark.
Yep, right there he is. Climbs on the binders, Paul. Then he gets to the bottom of the racetrack. Didn't see much wiggle when he climbed back into the throttle now. He stays to the high side. Now inches the wheel back to the left, right smack dab in the middle of the racetrack, setting up for that 7-8-9 complex.
Dixon now works his way all the way at the bottom of the track. Looks to have a little bit of giddy up coming out of 9. Then you wait. Power seemed faster through 8 and 9. Castroneves now at the bottom of turn 9. And that car number 3, Elio Castroneves, now sets up, takes that slight kink. Now that righty, that's turn number 10.
So working turn number 10, by the way, Tony Kanaan has just posted quick time and then eclipsed right away by Will Power. Will Power is a 1:06.805. So now we're in range of the record, aren't we?
We're getting within half a tenth right now of the record that Will Power just laid down right there. He's the only guy in the 106s right now as well.
And they have 2 minutes and 8 seconds now if they want to get into that record time. Of course, you have one session yet to go, and that'll be the Fast 6. That's what we're determining now. Will Power, and he's followed by Elio Castroneves, Kanaan, Dixon, and Mark. Please tell me you're not saying what you're saying. Don't tell me I heard what I heard you say.
Well, you didn't hear it from me. I think it was Nick Yeoman, but I'm just above Nick Yeoman, and I can echo that. Yet, Nick, some sprinkles on the main straightaway.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel them here on pit lane as well. So as this session wraps up, keep your fingers crossed.
We're looking out on the course now, keeping track of Simon Pagenaud. He is certainly second quick at this moment. He goes through 3 and out of 4.
Yep, he comes into my view. They come up out of that hill, out of that 2-3 complex, and just poof, there they are.
to drop around here. I think we have a bit of weather coming. We missed it by 300. Sorry guys, it wasn't the greatest. Good morning, here we go.
Get the tires on here, guys. No, Canon and Dixon and Newgard.
Starting up. Coming up in the air, guys. Change the tires. Set 7. What happened?
Start up here, guys.
Starting up.
what, 2 or 3?
The car seemed to hang on, but whatever's quickest before it starts raining more. Yeah, whatever.
Plug, let's go. Good job, man. Front row.
here at Barber Motorsports Park. It is only Helio Castroneves, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and Will Power that have won the pole. So that legacy continues on with Helio Castroneves sitting number 1 when they prematurely stopped the final session. They did that. They, of course, they guaranteed 5 minutes. They got them through the 5 minutes. In fact, on the clock, only a minute and 40 seconds left to go when they dropped the checkered flag. But obviously, it was a very good call. How about our pole sitter, Helio Castroneves?
Yeah, imagine that. Helio's excited about winning pole here at Barber Motorsports Park. Climbed out of the car. Doesn't matter if the session's over or not. Congratulations. Pole winner, second time here at Barber Motorsports Park.
It's fantastic. I mean, the AAA car was awesome. We played well. John and the rest of the guys, Jonathan and the rest of the guys did a fantastic job. It just, we got to hit the marks, swing it, and home run, baby.
I don't even know what you're talking about. All of a sudden, you're talking about baseball.
Baseball, racing, and whatever. But listen, the thing is, this team is fantastic. I mean, 1, 2, 3 right now, just to show that it's a shame that Montoya is not here. But certainly, everybody's working together. It's paying off, and oh my Lord, this is great, baby. AAA, baby.
How badly did you need this, Helio?
In this place, I want it so bad, especially knowing tomorrow it's going to be a dry race, and I knew we gotta do something different, and we did it, and it paid off.
Congratulations. Helio Castroneves, pole for the second time here at Barber Motorsports Park, 43rd all-time. Paul Page.
Well, so Helio Castroneves, we talked about the guys earlier in the day who relax, even fall asleep in the cockpit of their car. Helio is always the exact opposite of that, John. I mean, he is a party guy when he does good, and he's not so bad when he does bad.
Yeah, I don't know if they should give him an energy drink or what, but they certainly must stick it in his veins because he always does come out excited. And you know what? That's the great thing about racing and things like this. You should be excited about it. You work hard, you earn it, and you never know when your last one's coming. So for Helio, he's been with Penske Racing for a long time, tons of success, and obviously hasn't lost that fire.
You came into the booth pointing out that the Cup race has already been shut down for tomorrow. Is that correct?
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, I didn't know anything
Oh, okay.
about it.
One of our people reported that in. Maybe it
wasn't me.
I apologize for that. That's what we're hearing. We hope that
I know
is not
I know the
occurrence.
USAC sprint car race is not going to
Yeah,
run
we know
tomorrow.
that. Yeah, we know his son, Jarrett, was going to run a USAC sprint car race tonight, but it was a little muddy and cold, so we have another race.
But tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Lakeside. Lakeside Speedway from Kansas City.
How's your new president at USAC helping you out, though? That's of course
we
Davey.
love him.
I'm standing in between the two of them, too. So thanks, John. Thanks very much. Davey Hamilton, qualifying complete. A little premature, but nevertheless, we have a field with the first 3 rows very powerful. It'll be Castroneves and Power on the front row, Pagenaud and Dixon on the second row, and Newgarden and Kanaan on row 3.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I think tomorrow is going to be a tire war. As they mentioned earlier, it's hard on the left rear tires here, and it's so hard to pass on this track, but it's so exciting because of the speeds. A lot of people are going to be here tomorrow. It's going to be sunny. We're excited for a great day of racing come tomorrow here at Barber.
We gave you the first 3 rows. Let's give you through the rest of the field. Starting 7th, that's row 4, Sebastian Bourdais and Graham Rahal. 5 is Luke Felipe and James Hinchcliffe. Charlie Kimball and Sage Karam round out position 12. In 13th, it's Marco Andretti and James Jakes. And then Juan Montoya, Stefano Coletti, Gabby Chavez is 17th. Ryan Hunter-Reay will be alongside. And Jack Hawksworth will go off 19th with Takuma Sato sharing the row with him. In the 21st position, Rodolfo Gonzalez, his very first IndyCar race, and Carlos Munoz. And alone in the final row will be Francesco Draconi. So that's it for here right now. We're getting ready for a nice, loud evening based on what we've seen with thunder and lightning coming into the area now. We'll be on the air Eastern Time at 11 o'clock for the IndyCar warm-up. And then tomorrow afternoon at 1:10 Eastern Time, it's the Verizon IndyCars as they take the green flag here at Barber Motorsports Park. So on behalf of our entire crew here, it's raining out there. It's getting very wet out there. The guys are all in. Everybody's safe. And so thank you so much for spending the time with us here today. We'll see you tomorrow.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
A.J. Foyt down the main straightaway. The checkered flag is out. A.J.'s hand in the air. He is the winner. A.J. Foyt at Indianapolis has won his 4th 500-mile race. A.J. Foyt, our winner. The flag will fly now for Tom Snaba and then for Al Unser. We will be talking with all of these drivers in just a moment.
And we await A.J. Foyt along with a host of others, including Tony Holman, who is cheering as loudly as the crowd. We've seen what has never been seen before, beginning with a woman driving in the field in the morning and A.J. finishing 4 up front at Indianapolis. Headed into victory lane now, A.J. Foyt in the gleaming Gilmore 14 Coyote, the Gilmore Racing Team home, and he wins again.
And there's the checkered flag.